Analysis with the Mass Politics Profs. That's Under the Radar with me, Callie Crossley, Sunday night at 6 here on 89.7 GBH and the GBH app.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jim Browdy, ahead on BPR on GBH and NEPM live from the Boston Public Library. It's official, the government's official stance. Climate change is a hoax, and let's do absolutely nothing about it. So what are you going to do about that? Call or text. Then media maven Sue O'Connell talks about a battle over the Trump administration taking down the pride flag at Stonewall National Monument. Then you'll hear from husband and wife musical duo Will Nelson Jr. and Loren Benn.
I'm Marjorie Egan. Then we'll talk with BU media researcher Joan Donovan about the massive layoffs at the Washington Post and efforts to fight misinformation from the Epstein files. Then we'll close the week with Love and Valentine's Day. Love Letters columnist Meredith Goldstein is here. We'll talk about her new Boston Public Library phone booth and an attempt to answer all your issues of the heart. Share the love next. BPR live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Corva Coleman. The Department of Homeland Security is on track to shut down at the end of today. As NPR's Barbara Sprunch reports, the Senate failed to advance a bill to provide further funding for the agency, and there's no deal in sight.
Democrats say they'll only vote to fund DHS if there are significant changes to the department, specifically Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, after 2 U.S. citizens were fatally shot by officers in Minneapolis. But this shutdown wouldn't mean a shutdown of ICE itself. That agency received over $70 billion in separate funding from Congress last summer. Lawmakers in both the Senate and House are expected to be out of town next week, but they'll be on notice to return to D.C. if there's a deal. Barbara Sprent, NPR News, Washington.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio is in Germany for the Munich Security Conference. His remarks will be closely watched. Vice President J.D. Vance went last year and delivered an aggressive speech to European allies. He blamed them for letting immigrants ruin Western civilization. Before leaving Washington, Rubio seemed to strike a moderate tone.
The world is changing very fast right in front of us. The old world is gone, frankly, the world I grew up in, and we live in a new era in geopolitics, and it's going to require all of us to sort of re-examine what that looks like and what our role is going to be. And we've had many of these conversations in private with many of our allies, and they are our allies, and we need to continue to have those conversations, and I think Saturday, hopefully, and the meetings we'll have there will move us in that direction.
The Secretary of State will also visit Slovakia and Hungary on his trip. Both European Union countries lean toward Russia and depend on Russian energy. Meanwhile, Russia has not ceased its drone and missile attacks on Ukraine's cities and energy infrastructure. That's even as Russia claims to want to end the war. NPR's Eleanor Beardsley reports Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says Moscow has refused to commit to another round of U.S.-led peace talks.
Overnight Thursday, Russia launched 24 Iskander ballistic missiles, 1 guided air missile, and 219 drones, say Ukrainian authorities. NPR was able to witness it. Opposition member of parliament Ina Sovsun says Russian President Vladimir Putin is just playing for time.
He has no real plan to stop this war. And he basically tricked Trump into a situation where Trump can claim that he can continue the negotiations, yet at the same time, as we're seeing, nothing real came out of those talks so far.
Russia has not budged from its maximalist demands, she says, and Putin refuses to meet with Zelensky because it would be all too obvious who is the impediment to peace. Eleanor Beardsley, NPR News, Kyiv.
On Wall Street, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is up more than 100 points. You're listening to NPR News.
Good morning. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. Just in time for Valentine's Day, we're seeing a ton of reaction to a recent Wall Street Journal story about Lowell native and Trump advisor Corey Lewandowski and his alleged extramarital affair with Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. The Wall Street Journal story includes background info on the two finagling a plan to beef up Noem's image, as well as firing a U.S. Coast Guard pilot after Noem's blanket was left behind on a plane. The report adds that while Noem and Lewandowski, who were both married, have publicly denied reports of their affair, people say they do their relationship within the department. And we are on the cusp of the beginning of Chinese New Year. They'll be celebrating in Worcester this weekend. The Worcester Guardian reports the Ecotarium will ring in the Lunar New Year with a burst of color, rhythm, and tradition, happening Sunday, February 15th, this Sunday. A live lion dance performance kicks off at 12:15. The celebration welcomes the Year of the Fire Horse and offers a great way to experience one of the world's most vibrant cultural traditions right in Worcester, not to mention a big Lunar New Year celebration happening at City Hall as well as Boston's Chinatown. In sports, the Olympics continues today with a full plate of events that includes cross-country skiing, biathlon, snowboarding, figure skating, and Elion, the quad god, goes for his second gold today. Sunny in upper 30s, clouds in the teens overnight. We're at 30 degrees in Boston right now, 31 in Springfield. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include the Lodestar Foundation, inspired by the maxim that helping someone else less fortunate is a path to a happier, healthier, and more meaningful life. Learn more at lodestarfoundation.org. This is NPR.
Eastern Brady. I am Marjorie Egan. You're listening to Boston Public Radio and GBH and NEPM. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com. Thank you, /GBH News. We're going to be back at the library next Tuesday and Wednesday, but we won't be here next Friday because I need to update some equipment here, so we'll be gone Friday, and the following week we'll be back March 3rd. Good morning, Jim.
That's what you say. Also, you forgot to say, in about 30, 40 minutes, we're going to hear some of the most beautiful music from Loren Benn Nelson and Will Nelson Jr. They've got a pretty good story themselves in advance of the weekend.
Yeah, Valentine's Day kind of story, Jim.
In any case, for nearly 2 decades, the Environmental Protection Agency has used something known as the endangerment finding to limit pollution from things like vehicle tailpipes, oil refineries, factories, and Trump's obviously favorite energy source, the dirtiest energy source, coal. The endangerment findings said that global warming caused by greenhouse gases endangered not just the environment, but also human health. Well, the endangerment finding was on solid legal footing. It's a 2009 EPA ruling that determined greenhouse gases were a threat to public health, originating from a 2007 Supreme Court from Massachusetts versus EPA, in which the Supreme Court, a very different Supreme Court under then President George W. Bush, ruled the EPA had authority to regulate greenhouse gases and acknowledge the harms associated with climate change. But yesterday, King Trump just decided, nope, and he repealed it. Here he is.
Terminating the so-called endangerment finding, a disastrous Obama-era policy that severely damaged the American auto industry and massively drove up prices for American consumers. Prices went up incredibly for a worse product.
So the lines are open at 877-301-8970. Some of you accuse us of spending time on some of the most trivial of Trump's transgressions. This is not a trivial transgression. What are we supposed to do at the local level to protect ourselves and our planet until these climate change deniers are gone, assuming they are ever gone? What do we want our local governments to do? What do we expect those corporations which are not Trump obedient to do? Or is all hope lost on climate issues? 877-301-8970. Pretty devastating.
Well, it is devastating. I mean, every other country in the world, almost all the scientists in the world, with a couple of outliers. I don't know where RFK Jr. is on this. He used to be an environmental guy. Maybe he's changed his mind.
That's when he was with us on the show talking about environmental
stuff.
But
they've all agreed it's a big problem. I mean, this is like everything else. It's about money, but it's about money with a twist. You know, the fossil fuel industry, was invited down to Mar-a-Lago, give me $2 billion, whatever Trump said, and I'll take care of you. Well, he is taking care of you, but it's beyond taking care of them. It's kind of like a nasty twist. I mean, you just said coal is the dirtiest polluter of all. So what's happening is he's, telling the Pentagon they got to start buying electricity from these coal-burning power plants. A lot of them are on the verge of shutting down. Yep. So he wants them to all buy from these power plants. So it's going to cost so much money for some of these falling apart, aging coal plants to be brought back up to speed that what it's going to do is it's going to cost consumers a lot more money, not less money. So instead of, in addition to the devastation to the climate, it's going to cost people money. So I don't get why well, maybe because he won an award, Jim. Apparently he won the coal
Peace Prize, the Coal Peace Prize?
Basically, yeah. He got this award. Where's the story from this coal group in Washington? So maybe that was it. But it's kind of like you just have to make it even nastier. And I said this before the show.
By the way, you're saying I don't know why he's doing it. Obviously, he's getting money from the fossil fuel industry.
Yeah, he is, but he doesn't need he doesn't need to get money from the coal industry really, because the coal industry has shrunken so much. As a matter of fact, some of these coal plants say they're just not going to do it because it's going to cost too much money. But the nation's largest federally owned electric facility, this Tennessee Valley Authority, was about to close down its two largest coal plants. Now it's going to postpone the retirement because of the President's Award. And I just want to say, I'm lucky. I don't know how this didn't happen to me, but I grew up in Fall River, right across, I could see it from my house, my parents' house, the largest coal plant in New England, the Brayton Point Power Plant. That was at the north end of the city. At the other end of the city was the Montauk Coal Power Plant. So what you see all day long was this black smoke coming out of these plants, and dirty black smoke. And so many of the kids I grew up with have terrible asthma problems. I don't know how I escaped it, but they had terrible asthma problems. And what happens when you live near a coal plant? You get terrible asthma. You also might get heart disease. It's really bad, obviously, for your lungs.
Well, with all due respect, you obviously don't know what you're talking about, because I've heard the President of the United States say repeatedly, coal is very clean. Clean coal. Here's Trump.
No, Jim, it's clean, beautiful coal.
Here
clean,
he is declaring
coal.
himself the champion of coal. This is at a press conference earlier this week.
And me, and I'm proud to officially name the undisputed. When did this come out, Mr. Speaker? The undisputed champion of beautiful, clean coal. We have to proceed. Always, I don't use the word coal. It needs a PR job.
Let me just say, the one place where I will not disagree with him, he is clearly the undisputed of clean coal. I mean, you got to be fair. He is the undisputed.
But you got to give
877-301-8970. What do you make of this? And more importantly than what you make of it, because it's a reality. And by the way, they're going to be sued.
They're going to go to court.
Andrea Campbell this morning and a bunch of AGs said they're going to sue. We don't know what's going to happen.
As
of the moment, this is very bad, very, very bad news. What are you going to do in response?
And not to mention the fact that China, they're big polluters too, but at least they're with the program, they're making all these electric cars, they're building all these solar wind plants. As Bill McKibben has told us a million times, everybody's worried about their electric bill. Well, that solar and wind farms are cheaper now than what they're doing, and they're really going to be cheaper if he's insisting on going to coal plants. Natural gas is obviously a fossil fuel too, but it's cheaper. It's cheaper and it's cleaner than big, beautiful, clean coal.
One more sound before we get to your coal. Margie and I remember this day when Lee Zeldin, who's a former member of Congress from New York, was nominated to be the head of the EPA. There was a hearing, and the day of the hearing or the day after, Margie and I were celebrating what Lee Zeldin said, and we're going to play it for you in a second. And what this is indicative of is another guy who was told, just like the Supreme Court nominees, you should lie before the Senate Confirmation Committee, like those justices to be lied about believing in precedent before they repealed, for example, Roe v. Wade. Zeldin lied about his history and his belief in terms of climate change. Here's a little bit from his testimony.
I believe that climate change is real, as I told you. As far as President Trump
goes, you can end it there. I believe climate change is real, as I told you. He was part of the Climate Caucus, when he was a member of the House of Representatives from New York, and now he is leading the charge. And by the way, he was at the press conference yesterday celebrating Trump's elimination of this endangerment thing.
But one more thing before we get to the calls at 877-301-8970. You know, you got to give the GOP credit for this. The people that put together Project 2025, this Russell, I would never pronounce it V-O-U-G-H-T, as vote or void, whatever his name is. I mean, they have been plotting for years to come up with this, this ban. And just like the Federalist Society plotted for decades to come up with these very conservative justices in the Supreme Court. So I hope that the Democrats are in some back room somewhere plotting how they're going to deal with college care costs and child care costs and housing costs and the cost of living. Well, I don't think the Democrats have that. They don't do what the Republicans do, and it hurts them. They haven't done it in the past. I have to believe they're doing it now. But let me just say one last thing, and then we will get to the calls. Part of the problem, we mentioned this in another context the other day, is that a lot of what the damage Trump is doing, civil rights being at the top of the list, you can't just flip a switch and undo those things. Same here. This endangerment ruling, I naively thought until we did some reading last night and this morning, next president, even if a Republican is not going to be a lunatic like this one and a know-nothing, probably is going to reinstate the endangerment ruling. It's not that simple. It has to do with Congress and it's the regulatory process. It could take years. So this, again, unless the AGs like Campbell are successful in court, this is a major moment. We're going back to the 19th century. We are. Mike in Providence, America. You're first. Hi, Mike. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi there. I just want to say one thing. It's Grubhub. It's not DoorDash. You guys are going to stop calling it DoorDash because I'm a Grubhub driver. Why do we do that? Everybody does that. Okay. Well, I don't think we did, but thanks for the advice. Anyhow, please. I want to say that they need to tax these big passenger trucks that people use as their luxury vehicles to drive around and terrorize people on the road.
What are you talking about? Suburbans? Those big, the big Escalades?
Big F-150s that tailgate you, that rev their engines that's basically like everybody that drives a truck at the place.
Well, Trump is going to do that really soon, Mike. I mean, the problem is people who would do that so that people drive smaller cars are not going to be in power for a while, if who knows when they're going to be in power. So it's a good idea. And EVs were a pretty good idea, too, until all the credits disappeared, and now this endangerment ruling is disappearing. Mike, thanks for the call. We won't call it don't call DoorDash because he drives for Grubhub. That was his point. Oh, I get it. Okay. I guess. So Doug Burgum, the Interior Secretary, was on Fox. Another sycophant. Yeah, Fox Business. He was talking about this long debunked myth about carbon dioxide. You know, he said that CO2 was never a problem, never a pollutant. You know why, Jim? No. Because plants need CO2 to survive and grow. As you know, it does help the plants, but we're not plants. No, we're not. No, he didn't get to that part because his time ran out. We are not plants. That's a very astute observation. Yeah, okay, let's go to... Do you think the average person knows how big a deal this is? Or do you think, not because they're stupid, but because there's so much crap coming out of this guy and his people that it's just another day in the life? I think it's like everything else. There are some people that believe the lies about climate change is a hoax. It's just a hoax. It's no problem. And we got texts last week when the snow came. People say, how's climate warming coming for you, global warming going for you, not realizing that it's about extremities. You think people are that stupid? I think that they believe what Donald Trump says. By the way, Zoe, our colleague, made a wonderful point. While the federal tax credits are gone for EVs, the state's EV, meaning Massachusetts, rebate program is still active. You can get $3,500 back at point of sale on used EVs and more on new cars, etc. So that is to be mentioned. Harry's calling from Fall River. Hi, remember Harry. The Brayton Point power plant? Harry spewing all that black smoke? Hey, Harry.
Fortunately, it's gone. It's gone. I know.
No, maybe we can bring it back.
But we might bring it back.
Keep hope alive. Go ahead, Harry.
I will. Let me give you a little background. I started working on environmental stuff in 1970 when a group of us high school students put together Earth Day in Chelmsford, Massachusetts.
Oh, wow. Neat.
So I've been working on this stuff a long time. I'm not sure how much more there is that I personally can do that I'm doing, but I think we all have to be doing as much as we can. My entire house is powered by solar panels.
Wow.
I make enough extra electricity during the summer that that I don't have an electric bill 12 months out of the year.
Wow.
Last year I generated over $4,000 worth, almost $5,000 worth of electricity. My car is an EV. My house is heated with heat pumps. And even my hot water heater is a heat pump hot water heater. The other thing the other thing I want to say is I talk to everybody that I can talk to about how much of a profit you can turn and by eliminating your electric bill by putting solar panels on your roof. I haven't accomplished a lot with that, but I will tell you that not thanks to me, but thanks to a lot of other people working at it, we have, in my neighborhood, 9 of the 12 of us are on either solar panels or have bought into a solar farm.
Well, the answer, Harry, when you said, I don't know if I could do so much more, the answer, I think, is everybody listening who hasn't done all the things you've done and received the savings you have should emulate you. And
but a lot of the tax savings are taken away from that now.
I understand that, but as Zoe just pointed out, some of the tax
even if you take away the tax savings,
still a saving.
It will take me 8 years to pay off my last stuff.
Yeah.
It's great.
Total.
Now, Harry, let me give you a piece of advice, a warning.
Without the tax savings, it's only about 10 years.
That's great. Harry, if you see a really drunk guy on your roof over the weekend, it's Pete Hegseth pulling down your solar panels. So be ready. Yeah. Harry, thank you for the call.
I mean, Harry's an exemplar. I mean, that's absolutely wonderful. But I think a lot of people, it's going to take a change in the United States government policy to really make a difference. I mean, everybody can do that, and that's
But you heard him
terrific.
say, even without the rebates, it just extends the period of time.
Many people,
over
because
which
of
you
where
can pay
the
off
sun
the
is,
investment.
cannot put solar panels on their roof.
A lot of people can, as solar technology gets better and better.
And a lot of people can't afford it, Jim, is kind of the problem.
877-301-897. Who do we have on the show a couple of months ago? Was it McKibben who talked about those plug-in solar panels on your balcony or your porch that are big in Europe?
Yes, and they're legal in some part of the country, but they're not yet legal here. That's a real option for lots of people to be able to do that. How many people call up accept their electric bill? That would make a difference. Jane from Concord, thank you for calling.
Hello, Jane.
Hi.
Hi.
Few ideas. Mm-hmm. This is just another example of Trump trying to hurt the economy, doing things nobody wants. He's a part-time president, and he's undoing his doing is undoing. And he spends a few hours a day doing it. Biden spent a few hours a day as president. But Trump's just not busy enough, so he's time to be on the board of the Kennedy Center and the board of the Art Center and sit around and receive all these awards from soccer and the coal miners and everything else. And then his plan to make cars less efficient just hurts the automobile industry worldwide. So it's a big contradiction that makes no sense.
Well, the sense it makes, I'll repeat, is go where the money is. I mean, almost everything he has done, maybe except the overt racism, is tied to money that comes into his family, his kids.
I agree with you on this one.
Why not?
I think the stuff with oil and gas is money. I think the coal thing is kind of a twist it in your back kind of thing.
Okay, well, it's coal.
Because,
it's one piece of the thing here.
It is not a fun thing to be a coal miner. Black lung disease. It's a very difficult, dangerous
Do you know who wanted
profession.
to get rid of it and suffered because of wanting to get rid of it? Maybe that's what it's about, is Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton in that campaign talked about, remember she got a lot of coal miners upset in West Virginia who heard the first half of her message, not the second half, that they were going to be retrained by the federal government to get other jobs in the energy
exactly.
industry.
If you could get, and I understand nobody wants to lose their job, nobody wants to worry about industry, but this is extremely, I don't think it's as dangerous as fishing, but it's really, really close. And black lung disease is awful, so why not retrain people in clean energy, Jim? Clean energy instead of clean, beautiful coal.
Well, I assume that means the people, for example, at Vineyard Wind have not written them checks as big as they have from the big oil companies. I mean, didn't he meet with them on the first day?
I think it's something about, he wants to go back, like I said, the 19th century. He's like stuck in the 1950s or something. He hasn't come into the 21st century, you know? Boy, he heated his house growing up with, I don't know what he heated
Well, and
with.
also white men reign supreme, but that's an economic thing too, in addition to a racist thing. He wants people like him and people who look like him and his sons to prosper while he doesn't give a damn about anybody else. Regardless, this thing was repealed yesterday. Can we play just the first line, brilliantly put by Trump when he announced himself the champion of coal? Because this is really important.
And me, and I'm proud to officially name the undisputed.
Undisputed. Now the question is, what exactly was he trying to say when he said, I'm proud to name the undefeated?
Yeah. I think it was undisputed.
You know, why? I say
sure.
this about 8 times a week. Why do politicians in this country not have the courage to say, in addition to being a racist, a felon, a misogynist, that he is gone? The only person saying this all the time is Gavin Newsom.
I know.
He is totally toast. He is gone.
Yeah. It was the Washington Coal Club that has just awarded him the inaugural Undisputed Champion of Coal.
Oh, it's undisputed.
Prize. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. And so, you know, he likes prizes, and maybe that's why. Maybe it wasn't just to turn a screw. Maybe it's because he wanted to be the undisputed champion of coal and get the prize. Anyway, Micah.
By the way, you know, he probably was thrilled. This is the guy, the most powerful person on the planet, and probably is like rubbing his hands together because he's gotten the undisputed champion of coal prize.
And Carolyn Levitt, of course, she's another one that's challenged for telling the truth. She says, clean, beautiful coal is keeping the lights on in our country and driving down the cost of electricity, which is a big-time lie. I mean, it's just incredible the way everybody lies. Micah from South Hadley. Hi.
Hello, Micah.
Hey there. I'm a student over here at Mount Holyoke College, and I was just going to say that we're doing a geothermal project over here, and people are complaining about it lots because it's, you know, construction in the way. But I think that ultimately that's sort of the key is in these larger institutions, they can do things to prevent us from using too much combustible energy and you know, fucking up the environment, so to speak. And yeah, I think it's great, and we're going to be carbon neutral, I think, by 2027, and I feel like that's the way to go.
Hey, Micah, can you send us something on that at bpr@wgbh.org, what you're doing? I assume there's some literature on it.
I can most certainly do that.
We'd love that. Good luck. Keep us surprised. Thank you for the call.
They just built right next door to me in Brookline a geothermal school.
They did?
They
did?
Yeah, they did. It's pretty cool. And one of the upsides in this is that...
Oh, I just got a text. Trump had a update. Go ahead.
There have been so many billions of dollars spent already on trying to abide by these clean energy rules in industry. It's not clear they're going to undo them all because we don't know if things are going to change. But coal is going to come back big time because Pete Hegseth down there, who's gotten that recent mess down at the El Paso airport, that was Pete Hegseth too. Anyway, we're talking about...
no, we're not.
We're not?
No, we're done.
We're done?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
This new format. Remember the show?
Okay.
It's now a 2-hour show.
It takes me a while to get with the program, Jim. Okay.
Well, let's see how we say that.
Exactly. That is the first time the guy was ever right about anything.
Okay. We're talking to Media Mavis Sue O'Connell. She's going to tell us about this flag-bearing battle at the Stonewall National Monument.
Another disgusting development.
Yeah, I got that right, I think. It is Sue
You
O'Connell
did.
who's next. Okay.
She is.
I'm Marjorie Egan. He's
That's
Jim
her
Brady.
right there.
No
I
more
see her.
clean coal.
No more clean
Clean
coal.
coal. Say it again, Jim.
Undisputed.
Name the undisputed.
Thank you.
When did this come out?
We are so doomed.
Okay. We're live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Today on the Curiosity Desk, happy Friday the 13th. We've got an expert on superstitions who, get this, actually starred in Friday the 13th, Part 6. And with Valentine's around the corner, it's not just humans with love on the brain. Coyotes? Hubba hubba. That's the Curiosity Desk, today at 1 on GBH 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Brown University pre-college programs, where high school students prepare for college learning, experience college life, and make new friends from around the world in one of their 300 course offerings. precollege.brown.edu. And Explore New England. This original documentary film series explores the region's great outdoors through a variety of activities, including camping, biking, paddling, and skiing. Available on YouTube and Roku, or explorenewengland.tv.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan and Jim Browdy were live at the library, streaming youtube.com/GBH News. We're about 15, 20 minutes away from some totally beautiful music. So if you're not here, get here. Joined live at the library now by media maven Sue O'Connell, our favorite local woman and co-publisher of South End News and Bay Windows, and news influencer at NBC 10 Boston. Good day, Sue O'Connell.
Good day.
Good
Hello,
day,
everyone.
yes.
Hello, how are you?
I'm well, how are you?
I'm
I know, yeah, I know. You know what I feel like? I don't know if you watched the Olympics last night in that event where they ski like it's a marathon, and then they cross the finish line and they just fall down. That's how I feel.
That's right. Okay, the Olympics is one little bright light in this tough week. But tell us what's happened down at Stonewall, the site of a incredible riot and gay rights symbol and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, so back in 1969, there was a police overreach at the Stonewall Inn, which was a LGBT, well, I guess a gay bar and a trans bar for using the language of the time. And in those days, it would be, in many places, illegal for two men to dance together. It was certainly illegal to be gay, and police would often go in and arrest people, and sometimes there'd be wealthy people or prominent people, and they would blackmail them, and they would just basically harass the bars and harass the patrons. And in many instances, the bars and clubs were owned by the mafia, and the mafia actually were part of the reason we had such a well-established gay bar network, because they didn't care and they were able to go ahead and make money from this. And there's a whole payola and payoff and graft story behind this. But one day, the patrons of the Stonewall Inn had had enough from the police coming in, and a riot broke out, or an uprising led by some trans individuals who were at the bar. Some have kind of added to the lore that it was also because Judy Garland had just died, and people were very upset because that had just happened. But nonetheless, it went on for a few days, and it's noted as the beginning of the gay rights movement, of the LGBTQ rights movement. And recently, under I think Joe Biden, was it
Obama.
Joe Biden? Obama, under Obama, the Stonewall Inn was named a historic site. And, that comes with some protections, and it gets listed on the historic registry of the federal government. And like all of the other things that Donald Trump has been stripping, and certainly in Black History Month, we'd be remiss not to mention all the things that he has removed regarding Black history from all sorts of places, from the Smithsonian, from the historic parts of the Underground Railroad. And he's just continuing this attack on history. And according to the New York City gay paper, the rainbow flag has been removed from the Stonewall Inn site. And it's, again, just another infringement on history and removing what Donald Trump has continued to do. So it's just, it's outrageous. And again, as we're talking about earlier with climate and, what we talk about when it comes to Trump, these are just one of the millions of things that he has been doing to erode our society and our culture and our history. And you may say, well, with all that's going on, how important is removing the rainbow flag? Well, it's pretty important because he's trying to erase history.
Well, first of all, and by the way, I assume people know that while the Park Service did take it down, some local politicians and activists put it back up. Going to get ripped down again by the National Park Service. Now, what's particularly interesting about this, and insane, when I said to you before, everything is motivated by money, this is not motivated by money.
It's motivated by erasure.
It is. It is hatred and homophobia and all the things that come along with it. Now, speaking of lying, we mentioned Lee Zeldin lying in his confirmation hearing. We mentioned Supreme Court nominees lying about supporting precedent. You talked to Donald Trump in New Hampshire in 2016.
I did.
And he lied to you too. Let's throw to the sound. Oh, we don't have the sound. Why don't we have the sound?
We don't have the sound because it lived on the NECN website, and about a year and a half ago, the NECN website was merged with the NBC website, NBC 10 website. We do have the archive, but somebody has been too lazy to go get it. I don't know what her name is, but it's Sue O'Connell.
So what exactly did you say to him, and what did he say to you?
I asked then candidate Trump if we could expect forward progress in the LGBTQ community, because we've had laws, we've had votes. Can we just expect forward progress? And he said, well, that's your thing. I have my thing.
Yeah.
Yes, you can expect it. Yes. And
we have to bring all people together, he said, after he said it's your thing.
Lied right to my face.
Yep.
And his answer actually turned into a robocall that, what's his name? Not Cruz. Was it Cruz? Yeah, I think
Ted
it was
Cruz. Texas?
Ted Cruz used in South Carolina to try and show that Trump was not going to be as big a conservative as he said he was. So people woke up to me asking Trump about gay rights,
great.
Trump answering. Obviously, it didn't work for Cruz, and it didn't work for us either. So he just lied right to my face.
That's before we had any idea that it would come to this, and that sounded like such a reasonable answer. Okay, he's fine.
Well, we all believe that, and I think it's somewhat true, that he's a New Yorker. He doesn't really care. Ray Cohn was who was clearly very gay. Roy Cohn was
Ray Cohn was his twin brother, of course.
It's okay, Sue. I do that all the time.
Well, let's see how we say that.
Exactly. Thank you.
Okay,
we'll be doing that a lot, it appears.
So just tell me, though, and speaking of NECN, it has been sold to Spectrum News by NBC Universal. So what does this mean? You're on NBC, NBC 10. I see you. I saw you in the snow truck. I see all your Instagrams from the newsroom at NBC 10. Is this going to impact you, or
no? It doesn't impact me, and it's I don't know a whole lot of information because I haven't been in any of these meetings, so I don't know a lot. But NECN has existed for how long, Jim?
Almost 40 years, 35 years, something
Jim was
like
the
that.
first employee.
I was not the first employee.
And served,
why do you even say that?
I don't know.
I was an employee.
Actually, I was an employee before Jim was an employee.
Fine. Go ahead.
And served all of New England with news. And was.
That's why it's called New England Cable News, by the way. That's one of the reasons.
And NBC became part of the family 10 or 11 years ago with Comcast, and NECN has been doing its own thing. I was only primarily on NECN until about 4 or 5 years ago, and then I shifted over to NBC, and it's been acting as a bit of a hybrid.
Yeah, exactly.
With NBC 10 content and NECN broadcasts and news for New England in the mornings and up until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. But the reality of the dynamics of it are that it's hard to compete in that space unless you're fully in. And we don't have any New England bureaus. The bureaus, 6 years ago, I think, were disbanded. So what's going to happen is whatever has been on NECN Live is going to go on our digital stations. It's also been an incubator for the NBC owned and operated stations. Like I was on a show called Current, which was on NBC LX nationally. So that incubation is still going to stand, and the folks over at Spectrum are going to work out of the studios for a while. And
did you ever see our legendary show? We had a legendary show on NECN.
Nobody saw that
Nobody
show.
Saw it.
Nobody.
I did. I was on it.
Alex Bean called it under the radar.
Under the radar.
Before we move on to the next topic, which is all Marjorie cares about because it's sexual gossip.
What are you going to do?
Scott Besson is a gay guy.
Yes.
Has Besson said anything at any? He's the Secretary of the Treasury, for those who don't know. Has he said anything about any of this crap from his boss?
No, and I don't know why we expect. We have had people here in Massachusetts who were openly gay, who were political consultants, who worked on campaigns against marriage. Right? There are people who do things for money, and there are people who do things that I'm going to take care of myself.
Okay.
Why do I care about the gays and their flag when I've got $1 billion?
We're talking to Sue O'Connell. Take it away, Marjorie.
Okay, so there's all these rumors over Kristi Noem. She, of course, is the murderer of little Cricket, the puppy that she shot in the face.
Don't forget the goat.
And the goat that she shot after that.
Yep.
And you may know her from TV because she's always wearing some kind of flak jacket and a cowboy hat.
Cosplay.
And very tight outfits. All that. She supposedly is carrying on. She's married. Corey Lewandowski from New Hampshire. I think he's in Massachusetts now. I don't know where he lives now. Anyway, he's married, and supposedly there's a romantic involvement there that Donald Trump is upset about.
Yeah, this is reported in the Wall Street Journal. It's worth a subscription if you want to read it, because it's when the Wall Street Journal does some kind of juicy story like this. I mean, besides
they go deep.
All of the things that you want to, be concerned that, what's her title? She's Department of Homeland Security. And her cowboy hat and standing in front of prisoners near naked, stacked up like they're going to the wood chipper, and she thinks that's fine, and all this cosplay things that she does. And Corey has a bit of a checkered past. He has been rumored of being involved with other people and has some other allegations against him. He not only is being the two of them having an affair in Homeland Security, he's also got a badge that he's using because he wants to be the head of her security team or her department, so he's got a pretend badge. He wanted a gun that, according to the Wall Street Journal, they wouldn't give him because of some past issues. And all of this has come to a head because they're flying around on a very expensive plane that you are all paying for. So when everyone is freaking out about fraud and, oh my God, why aren't you looking at the migrant shelters? They're flying around on a luxury government plane. Right, together, just doing stuff. And allegedly, according to the Wall Street Journal...
What are they doing?
She left her blanket on the plane and left the plane. She and Corey were on the plane. Now, my daughter, I just had Target blankets. That's all I have. My daughter loves, a very luxurious Bloomies blanket or...
Who doesn't?
Yeah. So I understand if you left a blanket behind, you might want to go back and get it. Your blanket. And the pilot... didn't get it. She got upset about it. She then fired the pilot. Of
course.
Because he's a government employee, and she just fired him. But then realized that he's the only one that could fly the plane. So he flew the plane, or she flew the plane, and then they were told that they had to take their commercial plane back to where they were. It all, because she doesn't really have the authority to do this, I think the person still has their... job. But just so you know, while all of this is happening in Minnesota, while all of this is going on with tearing children away from their parents, she's worried about her blankie, allegedly having an affair with Lewandowski, and also firing people because the government plane that you and I are paying for did not do a good enough job checking for her items.
Can I say two things about this? For those, I know we're going to get texts, as we always do. Why do you spend time on such low-rent stuff? This is from the Wall Street Journal.
Yes.
This is not, okay, that's one. Two, I have to remind people, I've told this before, Marjorie and I spent a week in Washington before Trump's first inauguration, broadcasting from there, and I did TV from there too. And through a good friend of ours, Azita, our colleague, I had an interview with Corey Lewandowski. By the way, he was campaign manager for a while for Donald Trump.
He was on the show.
In his office, he was. And he took me to the corner of his office. And he pointed to a room. His office abuts the White House. I shouldn't say abuts, across the street, at least then. And he pointed to a room in the White House. This is the night before the first inauguration. He said to me, you know what that room is? He said, that's President Trump's bedroom. And he started to weep as on my children started to weep. In any case, that's the Corey Lewandowski.
The other point about this, too, is you look back at like the Clinton administration, because that had some scandals in it.
It may
right?
have, yes, it
A couple of scandals here or there. And you look at some of the people who had to go through the Senate hearings to see if they could be in the administration, right? And they didn't pay taxes on a housekeeper. They had to hit the road. They wrote something in their thesis in college. They were kicked out.
Ginsburg smoked marijuana.
Had a puff of weed.
See you later.
It was
Kick
the end
you
of him.
out. So I mean,
He was Supreme Court nominee.
Is the reason Lewandowski can't get the gun permit is because of the allegations
Perhaps.
about
He pushed the reporter.
No. Well, that could be,
that,
but
and there's
that he attacked the neighbor with a baseball
Yeah,
bat.
that too.
Yeah, there are a number
That's
of
up in New-
allegations.
yeah,
Okay,
number
we
of
have to move on
allegations.
because it's important. One of our favorite shows is White Lotus, and it's
Yes.
coming back for season 4. Sandra Bernhardt is going to be one of the stars, correct?
Yes.
And you're a big fan of hers?
I am.
Okay, we had an issue with her, and I'd like you to comment on this. She was on with us. I was a big fan until this particular
yes,
day.
I recall
She
it.
was on in 2023, and we're talking to her about her radio show, where she said she doesn't have guests on as gimmicks. And I said, because I'm fairly honest, BPR certainly has guests on the show as a gimmick. And then Sandra Bernhardt said this.
You're not celebrities or people that have established a certain,
Thinks he has.
Wait, we're not
Don't-
we're not nobody. I mean,
Don't upset him.
Go ahead,
No,
Sandra. I'm sorry.
I don't mean it like that.
Well, it's too late. You're not celebrities or people who have established a certain, profile.
Yeah,
Listen,
what the hell is
she's-
she talking about?
She spoke truth to Madonna. Okay, I just want to point out, in Madonna's
She is great,
documentary,
by the
they
way.
had a
I know,
great
she's
relationship, and she would just look at Madonna and go, "What are you doing?" So, I mean, I'm very excited about this. I think that I began to realize I might indeed be a lesbian watching King of Comedy in the theater with my boyfriend Frank, and Sandra Bernhardt
Is that
came
true?
on. Honest to God, and I was sitting there going, I am terrified of her and weirdly attracted to her at the same time.
Is that Jerry Lewis, King of Comedy?
Yes,
Martin
yes,
Scorsese?
yes.
One of the greats.
Greatest movies
The
of
only
all time.
serious role Jerry Lewis, a comedian for the young
Yes.
listeners, a famous comedian, ever played.
Right.
You like torture
Wow.
scenes.
Is that really a true story?
It's an absolute true story. I was sitting there going, I think I'm really attracted to her, and I'm terrified of her at the same time because she plays a stalker
She was
in
great
it
in
as
that
well.
movie.
So she was tremendous.
Okay, do we have time for anything else? No, we really don't, do we?
Well, except I want to give her a warning. It's coyote mating season.
Yeah, really
Yes, I
quickly.
do.
Yeah, how are you keeping yourself and Maud, your dog,
Thank
safe?
you very much.
30
Thank you.
seconds.
Besides my whistle and my baton, we haven't seen it. I've seen the tracks around.
I
because
saw
of
one
all
in
the snow,
Cambridge
right?
a couple of weeks ago.
Yep. So I see a lot of coyote tracks, but they seem to be busy mating right now and looking for
Oh,
things
good.
to eat. So I think we're fine. And I have totally redirected my walk in the morning
You know
to
what
do everything I
Corey
can.
Lewandowski said to Christy Nome? Let's make like coyotes. That's what she said. That's his come on line. Works
so
every
disgusting.
time.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
Sue, good to see you.
Good to
Sue,
see
it's
you
been a
too.
pleasure. Sue
Yeah.
O'Connell.
Thank you very much,
thank
Sue
you.
O'Connell.
Thank you, Jamie.
We have been speaking with Media Maven Sue O'Connell, co-publisher of South End News and Bay Windows, news influencer on NBC 10 Boston. She's also got a great Instagram account, which I get a big kick out of, Sue. Coming up after this quick break, a special Valentine's Day live music Friday with Will Nelson Jr. and Loren Benn ahead of their show at Coquette in Boston tomorrow night. Wait till you hear these two. I am Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, we head to Milan for medals, meltdowns, and one weird body hack. An Olympian tries to outrun a viral "yes, I cheated" confession. Ski jumping is rocked by Penisgate, with anti-doping officials investigating alleged body inflation to game suit size and gain lift. And on the ice, a controversial backflip is no longer illegal. Tune in for that and more on our Arts and Culture Week in Review, today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Bryant University, presenting the 29th Annual Women's Summit, Illuminating Values, Inspiring Action, on March 19th, featuring New York Times bestselling author Ellen Hildebrand. More at wsummit.bryant.edu. And Dover Rug and Home, rugs and carpeting for today's lifestyle with in-home rug trial and design consultation. Dover Rug in Natick, Boston, Burlington, and online at doverrug.com. Dover Rug, rugs and the people who know them.
Welcome back to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Marjorie Egan, Jim Bradley. We're live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH. Tomorrow's Valentine's Day, and in the spirit of love and connection, joined now by a couple whose love story is built on music, partnership, and community. Berkeley professor and speaker Loren Benn Nelson and director Will Nelson Jr. are Boston-based musicians and entrepreneurs. They're partners in life and in business, running Upper Room Entertainment. It's a live music and event collective we'll hear more about in a minute. They're here ahead of a show tomorrow at Coquette at 3 p.m. You go to upperroomentertainment.com for more. We'll speak with them in a moment. First, they're going to do one of my favorite songs originally done by the great Anita Baker, Sweet Love. Welcome to you both. Great to have you. Oh, you're doing that? Am I wrong? Is it backward? The other way? It's the other way. Okay. They'll be doing Sweet Love a little bit later. They'll be doing Everybody Wants to Rule the World. That's what I meant, by the way, first. And here they are. Let's welcome them. Why don't you come join us, you two?
That was
Will Nelson Jr. Go ahead, Margaret.
Loren Benn Nelson and Will Nelson Jr., Boston-based musicians. They run the Upper Room Entertainment. We're going to hear about that in a second. They're here ahead of a show tomorrow night at Coquette at 3 p.m., upperroomentertainment.com. What a perfect, sexy Valentine's Day story. I just love that you guys are here. But first, before we get to music, okay.
Bless you, Will.
How'd you meet?
We met through music, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah, we did. At one of Will's residencies, he asked me, well, he always likes to have us include this part, that we've known each other for a really long time, and we've been playing together a long time, but just as friends. And one night he asked me to join him on a gig, and we started talking, and we haven't stopped talking since.
Okay, who was into whom first, please?
I think it was mutual, I would say.
That's the longest pause ever. I don't think so.
Okay.
What's the truth,
That's not
Will?
what you said. You said something else.
It started with vocal lessons. I
Okay.
asked her for vocal lessons because I really admire her as a vocalist
Yeah.
and a leader in the city. We had one lesson, and then I asked her to play on the gig, and then after the gig, we spoke for hours at the West End after the gig. It was probably like 4 o'clock. We were still in the restaurant and just talking, and then we got to know each other outside of being professional musicians, and
Okay.
it's been awesome.
Okay, well, this is very nice. And you just recently got married.
We did. We
Yeah.
got married in May of last year.
And there was something very special about the proposal?
It was. So I had put on a benefit concert for my hometown in Altadena, California. And it was a beautiful event, filled with music. And we were trying to raise money for the rebuilding efforts of our home that we lost in the LA fires last year. And after the performance, I stepped out for 2 minutes. And somehow this man had 150 roses that he had passed out to all of the audience members. And,
There it is.
and
There
I
it
walked in,
is.
and he had folks hand me my roses one by one. So I had this massive bouquet at the end, and he proposed. And it was so beautiful because I'd flown my family out, so they got to sing. His family was there out from New Jersey. It was just an incredible event. Where I'm from the city of roses. That's what Altadena, California.
Before we get back,
we're
I
gonna
want to
talk
get back to
about
well, let's
Altadena.
just for a minute. There was an incredible piece in the New Yorker about your family. You're one of 7, am I right?
The
about
oldest of 7,
One
yes.
of 7, and people remember the Eaton fire, and that was
Yeah.
like total devastation, right?
It was. We've been there for generations. My grandparents had moved there in the 40s. I have hundreds of cousins and extended relatives that live in that town. And we lost many homes, and we're working on those rebuilding efforts right now.
How are people now? How are they doing?
They're
now?
okay. I mean, the resiliency of that town. I mean, it's a small town, but people are fighting, and we have good leadership. So it's a slow process, but we're on the way up.
How'd you feel when the New Yorker writer referred to your family as the Von Trapp family?
That was
of all
so cool.
Oh, I loved it.
That
I
was
wanted to
so
make sure
cool.
you did.
I did. We've been compared to all types of musical families, but the Van Trapps they're so particularly special because they all sang, they all performed.
So what is upper room?
Hold on.
I'm
I
sorry.
just want to ask you about the fire because it was, as you said, many of your family was here, lived there for years. Several of your family members were there when the fire started.
That's right.
One of them was they get out early because someone had health issues.
Yeah.
They might not have gotten out.
It was interesting, and Will was super integral to that process that night. We were sitting on a couch just watching television, and we switched the screen to what was my hometown on fire. My father had just gotten out of the hospital, and he had some breathing issues, and I just thought it was close. We didn't know how close the fires were, so we booked hotels that night. They couldn't communicate with each other because the power lines had gone down.
My God.
And we got them out within a few hours of the entire town being taken.
And one more question about this. I think a lot of people that watched all this tragic situation wondered, what do people do afterwards? You have to wait for the insurance. You have to wait. You don't maybe have any money. What are you going to do? You can't stay in a hotel, rent a house. How has your family navigated this?
We're one of thousands of families that are experiencing this. And what I've learned and what I'm most passionate about is community coming together for that. That wasn't a single effort of any one of us. That was folks here on the East Coast, on the West Coast, everywhere we were exposed, and the world had known this was happening. Folks really stepped up to help us. And it's not when you lose everything, it's very clear what you do have. And for us, that was people. That was our friends. That were people out here that were rooting for us. And that was Will. He had put together a GoFundMe that I absolutely didn't want out.
Yep.
And he encouraged me to put that together. And our family was really blessed. It's not easy. I'm not going to lie and say that every day isn't a struggle. They go to reach for things that are common, like forks and your plates. And So my family, they're doing okay. They have our music. They have so many opportunities, I think, to find joy because, again, when you're without a lot, you take those wins very seriously, and we find them every single day.
That's incredible. So, Will, Upper Room Entertainment is what?
So it's an entertainment company where my goal is to create sustainable opportunities for musicians to perform at corporate events, weddings, and we manage hotels and restaurants in Boston.
How's that going?
It's going really well. It's been started off with me as a solo musician in hotels and wanting to manage their entertainment in the hotel and get other musicians involved, and now it's going really well.
You or Loren told one of our colleagues a wonderful story that about an epiphany you had when you were at Rutgers. You were a student at Rutgers.
Yes.
And a professor asked a question which I wish every professor and every teacher would ask all of us early enough. What did the professor ask?
He actually put on a video. It was Psychology 101. It was a movie. He cut off the lights. It was a hall of 100 students. And he put on a video and it said, what would you do for the rest of your life every day if money wasn't an object? And he said, whatever that is, you need to go change your major right now and follow that
And you
dream.
did it.
I did. It took me 2 years after failing chemistry, pursuing
That helped too, by the way.
Yeah, pursuing civil engineering, and I left. My parents fully supported it, and I came to Berkeley, and my life changed.
Well, Berkeley has changed everybody's life. We just went to a Roger Brown thing the other night in Concord,
Oh, Salt Lick.
who were
Salt
doing a
Lick.
variation of what you guys are
Yeah.
doing. So before you go and perform a second time, Coquette, that's South Boston, right? Is that where's Coquette?
That's in Seaport.
Seaport, okay. It's in Seaport. That's tomorrow.
At 12 to 3 p.m.
Okay.
We manage brunch.
12 to 3.
So we play
Okay.
brunch.
Okay, 12 to 3. Okay.
And every Wednesday night, you guys are out there. Where are you?
Yeah, so Upper Room was scaling so quickly that he had a gig on the same night at the same time. So he's at the W on Wednesdays, and I'm at the Westin, just around the
Wait,
corner.
you're at two different places?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Wait, let's get this clear again. So if they want to see him, where do they go?
On Wednesday nights, I'll be at the W Hotel.
Yeah.
On Stewart Street.
Yeah, we know.
And she'll be down the street at the Westin.
At the same time?
At the same time.
Yeah, 2 W's. They got that going together anyway.
Okay.
Just go,
Yeah.
come see us everywhere.
And you can find upperroomentertainment.com. You can find out
That's
whatever.
right.
What do you
Okay.
play? What are you going to perform next?
We are going to do a medley of a couple of songs, of some
great.
of our favorites. That's sort of our thing. We like to take old classics and put a spin on them, and then we hear other songs, and we like to add those in too. So we're excited.
Fabulous.
All right.
Okay. We are
Want
going
to put the headsets gently down if you want? You can go
Loren
back
Benn
to...
Nelson, Will Nelson Jr., Boston-based, as I said. Upper Room Entertainment is the name of the company. You want to find out more about them, you go to upperroomentertainment.com. But tomorrow they're going to be at the Coquette in the Seaport from noon to 3, and they're about to play for us a medley of songs. It's going to be great.
And before they do, by the way, our timing is off. It's my fault. If we lose you at any PM, thanks for being with us, and we'll see you again on Monday. And here they are, a second time, Loren Benn Nelson and Will Nelson Jr. Welcome back.
we make the most of freedom and of pleasure. Nothing ever lasts forever. Everybody wants to rule there's a room where the light won't find you. Holding hands while the walls come tumbling down. When they do, I'll be right behind you. So glad we almost made it. So glad we had to fake it. Everybody wants to rule the world. Hey, pretty baby with the high heels on. You give me fever like I've never known. You're just a product of loveliness. I like the groove of your walk and your talk, your dress. You give me fever from miles around. Oh, I'll pick you up in my car and we'll paint the town. Just kiss me, baby, until it's twice, yeah. Not sure the one for me. The way you make me feel, the way you make me feel. You really turn me on. You really turn me on. You knock me off of my feet. You knock me off of my feet. My lonely days are gone. My lonely days are gone. Oh, there's a room where the light won't find you. Holding hands while the walls come tumbling down. When they do, I'll be right behind you. So glad we almost made it. So glad we have to fake it. Everybody wants to rule the world.
That was Loren Ben
crazy,
Nelson and
too.
Will Nelson Jr. You can catch them tomorrow at the Coquette in the Seaport between noon and 3. On Fridays, Will is at the W, and she is at the Westin. Lauren's at the Westin. Copley, if you want to get all the info, go to upperroomentertainment.com. Thank you so much. That was spectacular. We're going to keep going. We're going to talk about Press Play right after this with BU media researcher Joan Donovan. You're listening to GBH on 89.7. I'm Marjorie Egan. He's Jim Browdy. We're streaming at youtube.com and broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library.
Discover a whole new side of your puppy at Nova's Can Dogs Talk documentary event. Science shows the potential of dogs communicating with word buttons. Join our panel for a screening of select clips when you fetch your ticket at gbh.org/events.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Boston Harbor Hotel, celebrating the 37th annual Boston Wine and Food Festival with winemaker-hosted dinners, seminars, and more from January through March. Details at boswineandfoodfestival.com. And Boston Children's Museum, presenting National Engineers Week. Activities include practicing to be an engineer through challenges and more through February Vacation Week. Tickets at bostonchildrensmuseum.org.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
Welcome back to Boston Public Radio, 89.7 GBH. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. We're going to be back here on Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, but not Friday because they have to update some equipment. So we'll be gone from the library until March the 3rd. Hello again, Jim.
Hello again, Marjorie. It's once again time for our Friday media analysis segment, Press Play. Joined at the library desk by one of our favorites, Joan Donovan. She's the founder of the Critical Internet Studies Institute and BU Assistant Professor of Journalism and Emerging Media Studies, the co-author of the 2023 book, Meme Wars, The Untold Story of the Online Battles Upending Democracy in America. And as we mentioned, every time she's with us, she's co-creator of the Beaver emoji, and most importantly to me, as one of the key figures in the Tesla takedown movement, Joan was kind enough to say on the air, since I bought my Tesla before Musk took over Doge, it is okay, I think. Joan, it's good to see you. Thank you so much. I'm fine, right?
It. You're fine.
Thank you. Let's hear for Joan Donovan.
So I'm so glad you're here today because two of the biggest stories running around are the Epstein files, of course, and the tragedy of Savannah Guthrie's mother, 84-year-old mother Nancy's disappearance. But you have talked about the deep fakes and the AI stuff that is going on with both of these situations. What's happening?
Yeah, so you may have seen an image recently of what appears to be Jeffrey Epstein with long hair walking around Tel Aviv. Then there are all of these different ways in which the Nancy Guthrie evidence and ransom notes have been redesigned and redeployed by people using AI that look very authentic, look very realistic, but they are indeed fakes. And the problem right now is that the deepfakes, or the images generated by AI of any individual's face, is really not anything that we can do legally to get these companies to do much. There is a new act put together bipartisanly, but championed by Melania Trump, called the Take It Down Act, where if you are impersonated by one of these deepfakes, if you notify a company, they're supposed to take it down within 48 hours. But when it comes to people who are missing or perhaps dead, evidence of them living, evidence, all of that stuff becomes money in a way. It becomes currency and clout on the internet. So unfortunately, we have a whole rogue actors guild of folks that want to become popular by using these technologies.
Well, I am part of the problem. And I texted to Marjorie several nights ago a photograph. And I did say, is this real? Do you think it's real? This is the photograph of Trump and Epstein years ago together with underage girls. And I thought it was really damning, but I did know enough to say, do you think this is real? It turns out it wasn't. And one of the things, Joan, that drives me nuts is when I read experts like you and others in the field who say, well, these are the things we look for and that's why we know it's real. What do mere mortals look for who don't have your skills or the skills of your colleagues, and there's not a SORA or whatever it's called watermark on it or that sort? What do we do to at least raise questions about whether or not what we see is real or an illusion?
The first thing you can do is always remain skeptical. You have to realize the advancements in these technologies have gotten so far ahead that forensically, we would treat them as if you were going to buy a Rolex or a Prada bag or Gucci, right? What we know from the field of luxury goods is that counterfeits are going to proliferate because counterfeits make money. And so within the deep fake world, things like how many fingers do they have? Do they have ears? Are their teeth obnoxiously symmetrical? I mean, we come from Boston, our teeth are a little crooked here and there. But AI tries to overfix some of these anomalies. And so there's a certain kind of crispiness to AI photography where things maybe look like they're almost 3D, kind of popping out. The images might look like they're kind of popping out of the background. But unfortunately, it's really hard if these companies do not put a watermark on these that let you know it's Sora.
What's a watermark?
A watermark is just a little stamp that'll say, Meta AI, or it'll have the Grok logo, or And with Sora, which is the OpenAI app to generate video and audio, usually the video will have a little mark that said made by Sora.
Is it in the left-hand corner usually? Or
That
it could
one
be anywhere?
can be anywhere.
Anywhere.
But unfortunately, what we're seeing is people making deepfakes, and then they do a little bit of editing to edit out
the mark.
So they change the way in which your perspective as a user, as a viewer, removes that watermark. And unfortunately, then the only way to understand it then is to go into the metadata, like the info on a picture, and maybe it'll say in the info generated
I'll be doing
by.
that. In the short term, I guess those are the best things we can do. In the long term, I was reading something you wrote. I don't remember where I read it.
I write a lot.
Well, I know you do. But you had we thought years and years and years ago, the Globe did a story about, I think it was Wellesley High School. It was the first high school in the state that was doing a media literacy course. I'm about 90% right. I may get a couple of facts wrong. And we were celebrating and saying everybody should do it. All 351 cities and towns. You are proposing that there be a much broader kind of, I'll call it a civics journalism kind of thing to talk. What are you proposing?
Yeah, so I was asked by the Neiman Lab to write
a
prediction for where I think journalism should be going. And one of the things that I've noted in my research is that everyone is a journal-ish, right? We all have the capacity to broadcast, live stream, but what we don't have, and is not innate in us, is the habits of the heart, the professionalism, the ethics and rules of journalism that make trustworthy content. And so my novice proposal as a professor is that we just open up to undergraduates, or even in high schools, courses that lean into how do you do fact-based reporting, how do you become a better communicator on your own social media, how does Jim figure out a strategy for vetting images that works for him and helps him along in the process of becoming a better journalist. So it's this idea of bringing the practice of journalism, not just the tools, to the masses. And I think that young people are very interested in creating media, as are middle-aged folks like myself, as are older people. And so, but what they don't have is that ethic and those ideas about, well, what makes a great story?
Can I just stay on that for 1 second?
Yeah.
Because anytime someone says something like that, I know what people are going to start texting us. How naive to think that's ever going to happen. But my naive response is, even people on the right who think the media is totally slanted in a fake news way to the left should embrace that. Every kid, right, left, center, or unformed at that point, should be an ethical and informed media consumer and purveyor. I mean,
well, that's where we're at now. I mean, I'm a very practical researcher and sociologist, and it just occurred to me that we push social media into the world, and we didn't really formulate any kind of norms of engagement. And it's really decimated the fields of local journalism in ways that I find really devastating to the core practices of what it means to write and do journalism. But then on the other edge of things, I see these young entrepreneurial folks that are stepping in and doing culture reporting, telling us what are the best bars and nightclubs in Boston. I see people like even Matt Shearer doing his...
Oh, he's great.
His townie
used to be our
report.
producer,
We love him.
by the way, in our former lives.
He's terrific.
He's one of the best, right? But he is
WBZ.
Yeah, but he's not out there grabbing stories that normal people, or normal journalists are drawn to, because it doesn't have this enormous national audience pull. But I do think that if you empower people with the tools as well as the logic and the understanding of doing journalism, that even if they're left, right, and center, it wouldn't matter to them, because what they care about is the pursuit of truth and not power.
I'm going to ask you this anyway. I probably have asked you it before, and everybody tells me I'm naive and this is ridiculous. I know that there have always been supermarket tabloids with the two-headed babies and calf and whale have sex or whatever.
Yeah.
But there are rules for journalism, television, radio, newspapers, that don't apply to what's online. And I don't believe that with all their billions of dollars, they could not police better. You maliciously write a lie or you mistakenly write a lie in a newspaper, you get sued.
Yes.
You can put anything online and nothing happens. And I don't believe they can't police that, and I don't believe we should let them do it. It should be legal. Why should they be able to put up...
Well, excuse me if I may, one of the few things that Biden and Trump agreed upon for different reasons, which I'm guessing you don't agree with, I don't know, we'll see, is the repeal of Section 230. And with its repeal, it would make the platform responsible for the content that is posted on the platform, and that would solve your problem.
Well, I want people to get sued when they knowingly run a lie.
This would do it. How do you feel about repealing Section 230?
There's a couple of
Explain
things.
what it does better than
me. So Section 230 is literally, I think, 26 words long, which is this Good Samaritan clause that says, essentially, that if you are the carrier of information, you're not responsible for the message. So AT&T doesn't get brought up on charges if you're running a gambling ring using their services. And so, but the law was made in 1996 when we didn't even have anything other than email, right? You couldn't even send an image in 1996. There was no such thing as music online. MP3s were brand new. And so what you see with this law is it was started as a way to open innovation, open industry, and say, well, get out there and do whatever it is that you want to do, and we will deal with the social harms as they come up. Unfortunately, what we haven't been able to do is wrangle in the effects of these companies' tools. So I'll give you an example here, which is that you get into a fight, a little skirmish at the grocery store, and someone, not even a physical fight, you're yelling about the last pomegranate or something. Someone videotapes that, and then other people try to figure out who you are, and then there's a whole bunch of network harassment that goes on based on who they think is right and wrong. And so suddenly, argument over a pomegranate can become national news because of the design of these systems. And so we haven't really figured out legal ways to deal with the amplification of the harms caused by putting things on social media. And one of the things that we know is that these companies don't react unless we get journalists involved, unless, for years we knew that the Black Lives Matter Facebook account, for instance, was run by an imposter. It wasn't run by anybody in the movement. And for years, Facebook wouldn't take it down or do anything. It took Donnie O'Sullivan at CNN to crack the code.
I love him.
And he found out that the #1 Black Lives Matter page on Facebook was being run by a white guy in Australia who was essentially selling T-shirts and making bank. And so, these kinds of stories in my field are everywhere, but I think the legislative part of it has taken U.S. so long that the only really opportunities we have now are for Europe to legislate and make these companies build differently.
Well, they are doing a lot more, right? That's what we don't want to do it. I think that's basically it, because we don't want it. There's money to be made.
Well, they don't have a First Amendment either. I mean,
they don't. It's different. It's different. But you're regulated, as I said before. You are regulated on newspapers, radio, and television.
Okay.
So I don't get why they get a pass.
Well,
that's basically
repeal
my
of
bottom
Section
line.
230 would end the pass. Where are you on that?
I think there are stopgaps and other legislation that can be put forward and other ways of dealing with it. I do think that Section 230 is outdated. I'm more in the reformist camp of let's try to figure out different rules for the size of the platforms. I mean, once you get over 1 million users, you have a lot more power of broadcast. You can think about it in terms of low wattage amplification of radio stations. If people can hear you, you have to abide by the law. And so we have to have rules around posts, not just defamation, but also harassment, incitement that comes from the social harms caused by these technologies also need to be addressed.
Can we go back to AI for a second? One of the positives, at least for a minute, that Marjorie and I were talking about are news stories that say that the grotesque over-redaction of the Epstein files, particularly when it comes to the men who were the rapists, can be undone in some cases by I keep saying people like you, and it makes it sound like it's a pejorative thing. But the flip, and I was celebrating, I'm saying, boy, is that fabulous. I didn't know about that. The flip side, of course, is they could unredact those cases in which they did the right thing by law and morality and redacted the names and descriptions of women who were victims or survivors. So how far could one go to unredact the redactions in the Epstein files?
So this, ironically, isn't a problem that has nothing to do with AI. It's a problem of permissioning in PDFs around buying Adobe software. So they got rid of a ton of services under Doge, and among them are all kinds of software suites. So if you pay for Adobe, you can redact things in a file. What the government was actually doing was putting a black bar, like basically an image over that name, and you can remove that black bar simply by copying the entire sentence and posting the sentence into another document. I have been able to do it. Other journalists have been able to do it. Some of the redactions are structured in this way. Other ones that Raskin was bringing up in the Pam
Congressman
Bondi.
Raskin from Maryland.
And he was bringing up to Pam Bondi, the AG, the other day about how these files have been redacted in such a poor way, and that they, essentially were using the wrong software, which is allowed for many of the victims' names to be unredacted. The failure to do this correctly is a different kind of trauma, again, having to do with the scale. Imagine there's, a case in a small town, but this is an international story where these women's lives and some men's lives and the families obviously are going to be scrutinized to very high levels.
Well, so then I have a practical question for you. I was unaware, and I was embarrassed I wasn't until about a week ago when Marjorie and I actually read whatever it's called, the Epstein Transparency something or other Act. And it explicitly says that other than I'm paraphrasing, but it says this, other than redacting the names and descriptive information about the women, about the victims, I think they call them victims in the legislation, you may not redact a name to protect the reputation, the potential culpability, whatever it is. It basically says you will not be liable, as you might be in another situation, about outing one of the guys who hasn't yet been either charged or obviously proven guilty. So if that's the state of the law, why are there not people who are publishing the names of as many men as they can unredact who are credibly described as being perpetrators here?
To me, that is a very important question, especially as we know that the Attorney General Office, Department of Justice also is tracking what senators are looking at, which means they're also tracking what the rest of us are looking at when we are querying this database. And then there are other ways of searching the database that yield different results. Because I'm very interested in the structure of the Epstein files, and I want to know the corpus of what's in it, not just emails, but also in text files, but also all of the images and video. And the only way it seems to access the images and the video is to search for things like .jpg, like .jpeg, or .mp4. And then you get into a whole host of other issues around child abuse and child exploitation content. I have seen some things that they do not sell eyewash for, unfortunately, and so...
You mean things that were that upsetting?
Terrifying, because what ends up happening is, this is so anecdotal, but I think is important, is he's using a lot of this content is from the 90s and early aughts, so he's using a digital camera. So it'll go from people jet skiing somewhere in a very palatial area to people sitting around at a lunch table hugging one another to like young girl, and the only thing that's blacked out are her naked body and her face, but not her stomach or her legs, right? And so these images just kind of pop up in the database. There's really no warning, no click through and know that this is nudity and this is not. And what we know with once AI starts doing its thing in terms of identifying people by body size instead of face recognition, that a lot of these people are going to be identified. The victims will be, whether they have agreed to or not.
You know, I wonder what you think, knowing a million times more about this than I do, that they've been accused in the Justice Department of covering up, redacting the names of the perpetrators and exposing the names of the survivors. Do you think that was by accident, their ineptitude, or do you think that was on purpose?
Well, it's obviously on purpose if it's a reproducible pattern.
Yeah,
right?
okay.
And so if you look at Wexner's correspondence, for instance.
He's the Victoria's Secret guy.
Yeah, and he's the one who gave Epstein his first $1 billion or so. He actually signed over his power of attorney to Jeffrey Epstein many years ago. And so they've been in cahoots for a very long time. But taking out Wexner means you got to remove his name from half a dozen buildings in the, here probably in Boston, and then further on down the road. And so he is a high value suspect, but also is someone that, is in the family of Trump. The reason why I'm wearing this hat today, I'm on
Which you're getting complimented about, by the way, on text.
I'm on the board of Whistleblower Aid, and some of the things that the whistleblowers have shown us and what we've been allowed to know that go beyond just the Epstein files. But, we currently have a whistleblower that was given the written memo from ICE that they can go into people's houses. And then this became word of mouth, this memo within ICE that they are empowered to go into people's houses. We also have the whistleblower that has such a secretive complaint against Tulsi Gabbard that not even the lawyer at Whistleblower Aid is allowed to know what the content of that is. But what we're fighting for is for that memo to be sent to Congress. And so we know within the executive branch that there is a strong desire to communicate in ways that are not recorded and archived. We saw this with Pete Hegseth and Signalgate.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that there's, within the Department of Justice, the way I see them deploying these Epstein files and little bits at a time is meant to create a massive amount of chaos and confusion. It's almost like, how do you know what to believe when some of these claims are so awful and so outrageous?
By the way, Zoe, our colleague, mentions that Wexner not only owned Victoria's Secret, but Limited Too and other clothing brands for young girls. Can I also respond?
That we've all been buying for years.
One other thing, when you asked the question of Joan Donovan a minute ago about was this intentional, one of the law firms that represents a bunch of survivors sent in advance of the release of the files a list of 350 names of women. So all they had to do was put them in the search bar.
I could even do
and they
that.
would have known exactly my point. And so they had advance notice, and at least, I don't know how many exactly, but at least several of those 350 women, then young girls, names were exposed. Before you go, just in one final minute, are you less upset about what's happening at the Washington Post than we are because you focus so much on alternative, I'll call it grassroots media in 2026?
Some of the best reporters in our country worked at the Boston Globe, and so this, the Pulitzers and the award-winning photojournalists, as well as someone who I think is at the forefront of cybersecurity issues, national affairs, like Joan. My hope is that outlets that have more integrity and more interest in doing journalism will pick up the journalists that have been
the Washington Post,
that have been laid off by the Washington Post. But we also have to understand that, Amazon is implicated in much of this because of the ways in which tech has become such an important vector of reporting.
Yeah.
And so even within the Washington Post, you have some of the best reporters on disinformation that were relentless in pursuing information around in and around DC, getting miraculous scoops, and they've been pushed off and laid off. And so hopefully news organizations that value deep reporting will pick them up. And
Who's the gentleman you mentioned? Joe
Menn.
How do you spell it?
MENN.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, he's a wonderful, just a really smart person on tech in society. But he also wrote a great book about early hackers of Microsoft called The Cult of the Dead Cow. And,
That's a great title.
I know, but it was like a hacker consortium that even Beto O'Rourke was part of in the 90s. And
really?
Yeah. Beto's been out there.
Sly dog.
Beto is a punk. I will tell you that much.
Hey, Joan, it's great to see you, and thanks for your talk.
Yeah,
There's
thank you
always
so
been
much for
like
coming in again.
Oh,
We'd
I
love
love
to
you
talk to
guys.
you. We've been speaking with Joan Donovan, who's the founder of the Critical Internet Studies Institute and Boston University Assistant Professor of Journalism and Emerging Media Studies. In 2023, she co-authored Meme Wars, the untold story of the online battles upending democracy in America. Thanks again so much for coming in.
Great to see you.
Joan Donovan. Okay, after this quick break, we're back to Valentine's Day. A reprieve from the gloomy news. Love Letters columnist Meredith Goldstein is going to join us. She's going to tell us all about this phone booth she's got in the hallway out here of the
Right
Boston
there.
Public Library.
Right there in the lobby.
I'm Marjorie Egan, he's Jim Browder. You're listening to BPR 89.7 GBH live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
This week on Under the Radar with Callie Crossley, local mayors are bracing for an ice surge. With a lawsuit, the state auditor pushes harder for an audit of the legislature, and Gallup ends presidential approval polls. A full hour of political analysis with the Mass Politics Profs. That's Under the Radar with me, Callie Crossley, Sunday night at 6 here on 89.7 GBH and the GBH app.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And Bonsai Bar, hosting pop-up beginner bonsai workshops at breweries across New England. Hands-on classes provide guidance in the basics of bonsai design and care in a group setting. More at bonsaibar.com. And PNC Bank, who believes when you pay attention to the details, amazing things can happen. Like when you check the pockets of a jacket you haven't worn since last fall and find $20. PNC Bank, brilliantly boring since 1865.
Welcome back to BPR. Marjorie Egan, Jim Browdy, live at the library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. No more painful news. We're done. No more Trump. No more disinformation. Well, maybe disinformation, but in a different kind of way. We're back at the library Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. Then a BPL hiatus as our colleagues update the equipment here. We expect to be back at the library March 3rd. We will be doing shows, but they'll all be from Brighton. So today is Galentine's Day, and tomorrow's a big one, Valentine's Day. So you still have a few hours to get some last-minute gas station roses or whatever you get. To help us all get into the spirit, she's going to take your questions in a few minutes on all things love letters, all things Valentine's Day, good or bad, in a couple of minutes. But first, she teamed up with the Boston Globe's Love Letters column. That would be this woman right here, to host a special phone booth right there, that orange thing in the lobby, right in the lobby. If you're under 50, you might be wondering, what is a phone booth? Well, she will describe that in a minute. Here to explain that and many other issues of the heart is our very own Love Sherpa, Meredith Goldstein. She's the Boston Globe Love Letters relationship advice columnist and host of the fabulous podcast by the same name. Nice to see you, Meredith.
Hello, Meredith.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me. I'm so glad you brought up the fact that sometimes I have to explain what a phone booth is, because I have learned over the past few years that some of my younger colleagues don't know what a landline is. Or like, oh no, it's a dial tone, the ringtone, like the dial tone. Like, you know, when you pick up the phone, it's like, meh. They'd be like, what's a dial tone? And because they're not, who's picking up a landline?
Or that you had to dial. And if you had to dial a friend with a 9, you were dialing forever. Right?
I've been rewatching Mad Men and watching everybody have to do the circular loop of it takes 20 minutes to make a phone call.
Okay, we're going to start this event with a clip from the classic movie Anchorman, as cited by Meredith in her column today.
I didn't understand a one word you said.
Ron, are you okay? Ron.
Ron, where are you?
I'm in a glass case of emotion.
I'm in a glass case of emotion, says Ron
Okay.
Burgundy.
Yeah,
Why'd we play that?
One of my favorite movie lines ever is Ron Burgundy, as played by Will Ferrell, going into a phone booth crying and saying he is in a glass case of emotion. And I think that was one of the many inspirations for a thought I had on a walk 2 years ago. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if Love Letters, the advice column, had a phone booth so people could go into a glass case of emotion? This is the kind of idea I have after one glass of Riesling. This day, I happen to have not had one glass of Riesling. I was fully sober when I had this thought. And then I kept thinking about it. And then I was like, well, if Love Letters, the advice column, had a phone booth, where would I put it? I can't stick it in a bar. People are going to be like drunk and, you know, I needed it somewhere where people could be thoughtful, where people could feel safe, where people are positive, where there is love. And I could only come up with one place, which was the library.
That's fabulous.
So I called the Boston Public Library. This would have been 2 years ago. And I said, what if Love Letters had a phone booth temporarily in the library? And I thought they were going to be like, okay, continue on your walk, whatever. And they were like, that would be kind of cool. So for 2 years, we've been meeting. At some point, it was like, well, how do you make a phone booth? And we called our friends at the American Repertory Theater, and they were like, we build sets all the time, and we make things all the time. And so now what stands on the other side of where we are in the library, still facing Boylston Street, but on the other side of the front doors, is a glass case of emotion. We are calling it the Telebooth.
Today is day one, right?
Today is day one, like tell a booth, tell it. You pick up the old school payphone, it is free, and it will dial into a bunch of options where you can say feelings and questions. And this thing unofficially, like we left it there in the later hours of the day yesterday, and I already have a bunch of voicemails from people who went in and said amazing things.
Jim left one.
I did.
Okay.
We'll leave that for another day. Here is the first thing you'll hear if you pick up the phone, like Marjorie and I did this morning. Here it is.
Hey there. Welcome to the Love Letters Boston Public Library Telebooth. I'm Meredith Goldstein, longtime advice columnist and podcast host at the Boston Globe and Boston.com. This booth is for anonymously sharing problems, or feelings, or lingering questions, just like you would to an advice column. It's for getting it all out there.
I think it's fabulous. Just fabulous.
But you know what I love? The whole glass case of emotion thing, because those of us who are old enough to remember phone booths, there were a lot of dramatic moments in your life that happened in a phone booth. You got the call from the boyfriend, or you found out whether you get into college, or all these things. You couldn't wait to get home, and you made the phone call in the phone booth with your dime. And when you were a reporter, you were calling back to the office, you know, the details of the murder scene on the phone. I mean, they're really emotionally laden.
I always thought they were magical, and I'm not a Doctor Who person, so it's not. I know that that's a cultural reference, but I as a kid was like, that's where you go in and change into Superman.
That's right.
So to me,
that's right.
Like, really cool things happen in phone booth. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, they're traveling through time in a phone booth. There is something perhaps confessional-like. I can't speak to that experience personally, but I think also just I have a little bit of privacy. I have a phone number I can call. Let me just leave a message. So people have been leaving problems they want to see answered in the column. And by the way, we're not using any of these recordings without permission. They're just, but I have said, leave an anonymous question. I can take it for the column. But some people somebody left a message today that was like, I just want to say I love my girlfriend and she's beautiful.
Oh.
And no one's there, right? He's just saying that just to say it. So I find that like some of what's already being left within 12 hours is pretty astounding.
Now, did he say, and so it's right in the lobby right there, it's free, it's available, and it's actually quite a bit of fun. Did he say whether it was a human girlfriend or an AI girlfriend?
He actually went as far as naming her, so, AI can have names, but...
We had Lonnie Dinello on yesterday with Dana Gerber.
Yeah.
Lonnie Dinello was the woman who, with great courage, described her AI companions, lovers, family, kids, siblings in a wonderful piece that Dana Gerber, your colleague, wrote in the Boston Globe magazine in November of last year. We had them both on yesterday. We got a mountain of feedback, not surprisingly, after the 25 minutes with them. And then we're talking about this morning whether to broach it with you. And lo and behold, we both remembered that 6 years ago, you were a little bit ahead of the curve.
Well,
Was it 6
I don't know
years
about that. 6 years ago, if you can remember, we were all in lockdown.
Yeah.
So, right?
point.
So I wrote a story about how living alone at that point, I was like, oh, like I could see AI companionship being helpful right now. I mean, I had so much Zoom calls with friends and FaceTime, but I thought, even if I had a little robot that was like, good morning, Meredith, it might feel kind of good. The way AI has changed between my writing that story and Dana Gerber writing her story is astounding. There was not the ChatGPT culture we're in. You know, Alexa is not going to tell me she loves me, nor is Siri, right? So, like, my options were a little bit more limited. The point I made in that story is that it only goes so far. I think we are now in a different era where it can go it can go to new and exciting places, and perhaps for some dangerous places, for others, amazing places. For some people, it can be training to talk to other humans in your life. I thought Dana's story was fascinating.
So did I.
Because what does it mean to relate to anyone, to anything? So it's, I always think about Cynthia Brazil, who is I hope I'm saying her last name right, who's an MIT AI expert. She always says, like, when you think about technology, think about, does it help you thrive?
Well, that's the critical issue. When we first read the story and talked about it 3 months ago, that's, to me, the most. We talk a lot about loneliness. The question is, in addition to allaying to some degree your loneliness, which it clearly does it prepare you to have relationships with humans, or does it cause you to think you don't need humans? And what Lonnie told us was, and Dana wrote about, and her shrink, or a therapist at the time from Connecticut, said it helped her re-emerge into the real world. And if that's the case, I say go for it.
There is technology where I'm like, this is helping me thrive. There's also a game on my phone where I organize little pictures of soda cans. That is not helping me thrive. I will play it for 2 hours at a time, and it is not helping me thrive. So I know the answers to this so often for myself, and I think so many people do. I think the possibilities that are around with AI relationships now are just different than they were. We just have to be careful.
So why don't we do this, Marjorie? Why don't we take a break and we come back? If any of you have any questions, either about the new telephone booth or about Valentine's Day, we're going to talk about Galentine's Day, which is today.
Yes.
877-301-8097.
Okay, we're talking with Meredith Goldstein, the brains behind the Love Letters column at the Boston Globe. She's going to stay with us to take any questions you have about Valentine's Day. 877-304-8970.
304?
Whoops. 877, what, 304?
304?
It's not 304? What is it?
No, we've only been here 26 years.
What is it?
Actually, we've only been here 13.
What is it?
877-301, like it was yesterday and the day before.
Okay. I'm heading to Donald Trump land. going right down. 801. 401.
You know what that phone number is?
Forget it.
No, I'm going to tell you. You know what the phone number is?
What?
Undisputed, the phone number. Totally undisputed. That is our phone number. I'm quoting my hero.
Meredith Goldstein is here. I'll say no more. We'll be right back.
I think you should. That's good.
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, we head to Milan for medals, meltdowns, and one weird body hack. An Olympian tries to outrun a viral "yes, I cheated" confession. Ski jumping is rocked by Penisgate, with anti-doping officials investigating alleged body inflation to gain suit size and gain lift. And on the ice, a controversial backflip is no longer illegal. Tune in for that and more on our Arts and Culture Week in Review, today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And MIT Sloan Executive Education, helping professionals stay competitive with 2 to 3 day courses on AI essentials, strategic leadership, and more. Details at executive.mit.edu. And Rockland Trust Bank, committed to helping individuals and local businesses work towards their financial goals by providing financial advice and resources. More at rocklandtrust.com. Rockland Trust Bank, where each relationship matters. Member FDIC.
Welcome back to BPR. Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. We're live at the library. We continue our conversation with the great Meredith Goldstein, who, of course, is of Love Letters fame and now of phone booth fame here at the Boston Public Library.
So what's Galentine's Day?
Well, it's a holiday that, from my understanding, was started accidentally on the show Parks and Recreation when a character named Leslie Knope, as played by Amy Poehler, came up with a Galentine's Day party for gals on February 13th. And some very smart marketing executive thought, well, why don't we just start promoting that like it's a real holiday too, like any of these holidays are, and it's for, I don't think just women getting together, but it's today. And I notice a lot of bars in town, a lot of places in town have their own Galentine's Day programming.
How do you feel about it? You seem, when you threw in that it's not just
listen,
for women thing.
I love it. I love any reason to celebrate. However, I also am like, oh, is this another thing I'm going to forget and ruin? Is this another thing I don't have plans for? So, like, my thing with holidays, all of them are, if it's a good reminder to see people, if Mother's Day reminds you to call a friend who has a kid and otherwise you'd forget that, great. But if you don't want to do anything that day, that's okay too.
Why is there a men's thing on Friday?
Well, I am interested in this, right? Like, this came from a sitcom. We know there's a loneliness problem that specifically affects straight men. We know this. So I would just say on this Galentine's Day, if you are a man and you have any friend whatsoever and you haven't seen them in a while, let Galentine's Day be your day too.
There you go, Jim.
Or call your gal friend, sir, and make a plan. That's all I would say. Women are actually scientifically proven to be very good at making plans. So I would just say, if that's not you,
that is
to your
true.
friends.
Women are much better.
Well,
at
and
making
that's
plans.
not universal,
about?
but it tends.
Are you a woman?
I am not good at making plans, but other women are.
No, but you may just kind of, and this is, by the way, I don't mean to generalize
good at
about
a lot
all
of
women
things.
do this or all men do this. It's just they show that, like, statistically, like, men get together with their friends less, and I have to say straight men because it's straight men, right? So there are all these built-in ways that sometimes women see each other, even for caregiving. So, like, I do say, like, if you're some guy out there and you're like, I haven't seen my guys in a while, or my friends, it doesn't have to
Zoe
be other
writes,
men.
everybody needs a wife no matter who you
Here's
are.
my we'll go to Jane just a second. Here's my stereotypic thing that, and this was in real life. When I was married, my husband goes out, has dinner with a friend of his who's going through a horrible divorce.
Yeah.
And when he came back, I said, how's so-and-so doing in the divorce? He said, we never talked about it.
But so that
I said, you never talked about it.
It makes me laugh, and I have had this experience with men too. Again, we're generalizing. It may not be fair. Where, like, there's like 8 hours of conversation, and later I'm like, wait, no, you talked about not. But also, when I'm with my friends, we tend to talk about so many big things that every now and then I wish we could just talk about fun stuff.
Yeah.
So there is something to borrow from that, which is that maybe the friend going through a horrible divorce just wants to have fun and have a distraction and not be like, and then I felt this at 7 p.m. and at 8 p.m. So it's all right. Just spending time with other people, especially in addition to your AI friends, as we were just talking about.
That's right.
Like, just have quality human time. That's okay.
All right, Jane from Cambridge. She's on the phone. Oh,
hi.
My mic is not on, so go ahead.
Yeah, Jane from Cambridge. Thank you for calling.
Hi. I'm in a quandary,
Yep.
and I need your advice. So I have two friends who got together, male and female, and before they got together, he was ending it with an ex, and she had just ended it with an ex. He was working his way out of a relationship as of February 14th of last year, and she, unbeknownst to him, was having an affair with her old flame. So they finally get together, fits and starts. She just decides to break up with him. She's decided she wants to be with women exclusively.
Okay.
Now, what she doesn't know, because they only broke up a week ago, is that he is brokenhearted. He's like, it'd probably take me a year to get over her. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to him, she has a date on Monday. This Monday. So he I got up this morning and I thought, you know what, I'm going to text him because I know him. And I was like, dear so-and-so, I know you wear your heart on your sleeve. I beg you to put away your credit cards and not buy XYZ flowers today. I get a phone call. Nope, too late. Bought her flowers, sent them to her.
Oh.
So he has no idea that they saw each other last night where she's like, oh yeah, it's really hard. I don't know how I'm ever going to meet somebody. And he's like, me either. It's probably going to take me a year. So of course he thinks she's struggling. And meanwhile, she's a date on Monday.
She has
and
a date on Monday.
Whenever she calls him, he's like, oh, oh, he's calling me again. I'm like, oh my gosh, do I tell him?
Okay, here's what I would say. And remember, on-the-spot advice. Having a date on Monday does not mean this is easy for her and that she's over it.
Oh, no, she's over it.
She's over it? Okay.
She's already planning their wedding.
My first piece of advice is perhaps they shouldn't be talking. Like, this is a time where, getting used to having space, calling this a real breakup. I don't know where they're having dinner. So, suggesting and asking about what the boundaries should be so that he can start getting over this. I'm not entirely sure he needs to know she has a date on Monday, but I think what you can say is this is real, this is permanent, so now let's look ahead. I think it's interesting that he's saying it's probably going to take me a year because I'm only a year. I take a while to get over things, right? But I do think that having that clean break can help move things along. I don't think you need to get into the details of Monday. I also think you might, I don't know what communication you have with her, but tell that friend, don't lead him on.
Hey, Jane, thank you for sharing that. Jill texted, I tried to remember the scene from Airplane, Marjorie's favorite movie, where a group of reporters runs into a row of phone booths and they all fall over.
Yes.
I forgot. That's a pretty good one, too.
That
It
was
should
a
be
great
included.
scene. Yeah.
Should we try to squeeze in Sarah from Dorchester, who apparently also has a question for Ms.
Hello,
Love Letters?
Sarah.
Hey there.
Hello, I am on the phone and on the radio, so let me see if I can get this. I have an event to promote. The Boston Building Resources, which is in Roxbury, is having a Galentine's and Valentine's Day event tonight and tomorrow.
Oh, neat.
Oh, I've been there. That's a cool place.
Oh, so you're suggesting people for Valentine's or Galentine's go to the deal.
It's a cool place. It's in Roxbury, and there's if you're looking, it's old furniture and all sorts of stuff. So, yeah, thank you for letting us know.
Well, Sarah, thank you.
Okay.
Boston Building Resources.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so...
we have a minute.
Oh, we only have a minute.
Yeah, well, that's how it works here. The show's over. You do another show on Monday, then you do another one the next day.
At the Olympics.
A lot to cover.
If you haven't seen that one, it's a good story.
Yeah.
You're winning the medal, and then you announce you're cheating on your girlfriend and your son.
Yeah, I can wrap up by saying a man cheated on his girlfriend. He did well at the Olympics. He told everybody he cheated on his girlfriend. It didn't work out well. See former episodes where I've talked to you about why I don't like public proposals. Maybe I also don't like public apologies about cheating.
Yeah, I don't know what he was thinking there.
Surprise proposals.
It was odd.
They know it's coming.
You win a medal, and then you announce.
He did his best.
He did his best. You think it wasn't working because?
Just to tell the world, I'm sorry I cheated my girlfriend. That's taking a risk, buddy. That's all I'll say.
Then he dropped his bronze medal because they're not all of them are breaking.
Okay.
So how long is this phone booth deal going to be here before you go?
Several months, as far as we know. You've got a little bit of time. Enjoy it. We don't have a specific end date yet, but get in there. It's a phone booth. It's your glass case of emotion.
Yeah, and it's got all these great letters addressed to Meredith Goldstein, love letters to the Boston Globe in the windows. I loved all that too.
And thanks to the library and to the American Repertory Theater and the library specifically for making it happen.
Good to see you, Meredith. Congratulations on the project.
Okay.
Take care.
We have been talking with Meredith Goldstein. She's the author of the Love Letters column and also the great Love Letters podcast. I just listened to the one about being a third wheel. It was great. Coming up, we're going to talk with Edgar B. Hurd III about how he is celebrating Valentine's Day. Meredith, thank you.
Hi, Edgar.
Much. Hi.
Hi.
All right,
Hello.
All right, Edgar, what are you doing for Valentine's Day?
Well, Marjorie, you'll understand this. I'm a good Catholic boy, so for St. Valentine's Day, I'm going to go to church.
Oh, there you go.
No, Valentine. I like Valentine's Day. It's nice. I don't know. I'm just, it's Valentine's Day.
Oh,
that's a good enough answer.
A little indecisive, Edgar.
No, I'll say this. From the time,
please.
it's really interesting. From the time I was a kid, which I think is really nice in my family, it was all, I'm one of four, 2 sisters, 2 brothers. It was always for the boys and the girls. It was just a day to go out of your way and say I love you to each other.
Aww.
And it's really nice. And I didn't realize, I think that's somewhat unusual. As I got older, I realized it wasn't like that for every family. So, I love my family. I love my friends. Let's celebrate the love.
That's quite a beautiful
Celebrate the
thing.
love.
My father told my mother right before they got divorced that he had been disbarred on Valentine's Day, which was actually a beautiful moment for our
Such similar
family.
experiences,
Really nice.
Jim. I feel closer to you
very
now.
similar.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Almost true, by the way. What are you doing today on that show thing?
Well, today on the show, Valentine's Day, love is in the air for us humans, but also apparently love is in the air for coyotes right now.
Coyotes.
They're mating.
Mating season.
We are going to talk about coyote mating season, what it means for them and what it means for us.
What it means for them.
Yeah, what it means for them.
I know what it means for them.
Yeah,
but
well, you know. And then also, it is Valentine's Eve, but it's also today, Friday the 13th.
That's right.
So we're going to talk about
right?
Yeah, we're going to talk about Friday the 13th. Where does it come from? The phone lines are going to be open. We want to hear about people's superstitions, what they follow, what they don't, all of that stuff. So.
Okay, Edgar, happy Valentine's Day.
Happy
Thank
Valentine's
you very much.
Day. Happy Friday the 13th.
Thanks for listening to another edition of Boston Public Radio. Thanks to everybody who came down to see us at the Boston Public Library. I really appreciate it. We have a podcast. If you haven't gotten enough of us, you can check out our TikTok page as well at Boston Public Radio.
It's a hell of a pitch, Marjorie.
On Monday.
I'll tell you.
Well, the podcast is very good, Jim. It's the show, really, is what
sort
it is.
Of the show.
Yeah, the TikTok page, though, is not the show. The
No?
TikTok page got a lot of very funny stuff on it.
Things, yeah.
On Monday, it's an encore edition of the show. We're going to hear from Ethan Hawke, who has been nominated again for an Oscar, his 5th time. Author Howard Bryant has written this incredible book about Jackie Robinson and Paul Robeson, a story I know nothing about before this book. I want to thank our crew, Zoe Matthews, Nicole Garcia, Hannah Loss, our engineer, John the Club Parker, our executive producer, Jamie Bologna. Special thanks to our BPL staff, Maddie Geyer, Bill Francis, Matthew Glover, Sandra Lopez Burke, our hosts at the Newsfeed Cafe and across the street at the Lenox Hotel. The Curiosity Desk starts right after us here on 89.7 GBH, and that's with Edgar B. Hurd III and the Culture Show with Jared Bowen. Their weekend review is going to be here right at the library starting at 2 o'clock at the Boston Public Library. I'm Marjorie Egan.
Well, I just want to say our staff works really hard, do they not?
They do.
And they wanted this opportunity, we're out of time, to thank me for deciding we wouldn't have a show on Monday. And we'll be playing Best Of. You're welcome, all of you.
Oh, my
It's the least
God.
I could do.
The least you could do.
For the wonderful work
Jim.
you all do. Marjorie was against it, of course. I'm Jim Browdy. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
From the stories of centuries past to discoveries that will define our future, How Did We Get Here's, how-tos, and more. Journey with us down the rabbit hole on the Curiosity Desk. Coming up next on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And the Office of the Massachusetts State Treasurer. The Unclaimed Property Division is holding unclaimed funds. New properties are added often. To see if you have unclaimed money, you can visit findmassmoney.gov. And the Massachusetts Health Connector for Business. Premium value plans can help small business owners find and offer accessible employee health benefits. Learn more at mahealthconnector.org/business.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. Today on the Curiosity Desk, with Valentine's Day around the corner, romance is in the air for us human folk. Turns out the same is true for our coyote friends throughout New England. Today we ask the burning question, are coyotes more romantic than we give them credit for? And it's not just love on our minds this Valentine's Eve, since it's also Friday the 13th. Why all the superstition around today of all days? We'll talk with a folklore expert who also happens to have an acting credit to her name in the Friday the 13th film franchise.
If they're not here by morning, we send all the kids home. We're not prepared to run this.
What's the superstition you cannot shake? Call and let us know. It's all ahead this hour on the Curiosity Desk on GBH 89.7.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. At the Munich Security Conference in Germany, Ukraine's foreign minister says he's invited China's top diplomat to his country, suggesting Beijing could be helpful in ending Russia's war in Ukraine. NPR's Emily Fang has the latest.
China has offered repeatedly to mediate any talks between Russia and Ukraine to end the war.
Ukraine historically has been distrustful. China is one of Russia's biggest trade partners, and Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky has criticized China's increased purchases of Russian oil and gas. Ukraine has also alleged China provided military intelligence to Russia, but after several failed rounds of talks with Russia, Ukraine's leaders have signaled more openness to Beijing, with Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha saying China, quote, can play an important role in bringing about a just peace for Ukraine. China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi says Beijing is, quote, willing to provide new humanitarian assistance to Ukraine, but he did not mention an invitation to visit Kyiv. Emily Fang, NPR News.
Congress is about to go on break with no sign yet of an agreement to fund the Department of Homeland Security before money runs out at midnight. Mostly Democrats are holding out for changes to immigration enforcement policies, but NPR's Barbara Sprunt says Immigration and Customs Enforcement funding is not affected.
A shutdown here does not mean a shutdown of ICE, and that's because the agency got over $70 billion in separate funds from Congress over the summer as part of Republicans' massive spending and tax bill. So other agencies within the DHS will be affected by a shutdown like TSA and FEMA.
NPR's Barbara Sprunt reporting. Tomorrow is a deadline for 7 states, including California and Colorado, to agree on water usage from the Colorado River. Alex Hager with member station KJZZ reports.
Those 7 states, from Wyoming to California, seem unlikely to have a deal tomorrow. Climate change is drying up the river, and states need to figure out how to rein in demand from cities and farms. They say they're working hard behind the scenes to forge an agreement because the alternative is probably a big showdown in the Supreme Court. The current rules for managing the river expire in October, and federal officials need to do a lot of environmental paperwork before then. If they can't implement new rules in time, it could mean big shortages at the nation's largest reservoirs. State leaders say they're now focused on a short-term plan to help avoid that. For NPR News, I'm Alex Hager in Phoenix.
Federal officials are reporting 910 confirmed cases of measles in the U.S. so far this year. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention's website shows the overwhelming majority in 24 states, from California to Pennsylvania. 5 new outbreaks were reported since the start of the year. The CDC says that most of the cases are among those who are unvaccinated or whose vaccination status is unknown. The agency falls under the direction of Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has long expressed doubts about vaccine safety. It's NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Newsroom, I'm Henry Santoro. The U.S. Department of Justice dropped another doozy today on Harvard University, seeking a court order requiring the university to turn over admissions records requested as part of a federal civil rights review. Several news sources report the lawsuit follows a 2023 Supreme Court decision that ruled against Harvard and barred the consideration of race in college admissions, along with a subsequent Justice Department review aimed at determining whether the university has complied with federal civil rights law. The 14-page complaint was filed in U.S. District Court here in Massachusetts. It alleges that Harvard thwarted and slow-walked, their words not ours, the Department of Justice's investigation by failing to provide requested applicant-level admissions data. According to the filing, the Justice Department sought data from Harvard College, Harvard Law School, and Harvard Medical School. No word yet from officials at Harvard. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey plans to make an AI assistant available to all 40,000 executive branch workers in the state. Globe reports the governor made the announcement of the state contract with OpenAI at an event inside the popular wearable tech company Whoop's headquarters in Kenmore Square. It features a remote appearance by OpenAI Chief Executive Sam Altman. The Olympics continue today with a snowboarding, figure skating, got it all today. Sunny and upper 30s, clouds in the teens overnight. We are at 34 degrees in Boston right now. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive. Progressive Commercial Auto Insurance protects the vehicles that work to keep small businesses moving forward, including protection while running errands and other tasks. At progressivecommercial.com.
You're listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We're streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Now, we at the Curiosity Desk want to wish you a very happy Valentine's Day. That's to all of you who partake, and apparently this also includes our coyote community who are feeling the love for reasons we'll learn about in a moment. Here to explain this to us and more is Meghan Crawford. Meghan is the community engagement biologist for Mass Fish and Wildlife. Meghan, happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you. You too, Edgar.
Oh, thank you so very much. Now, we've been sort of teasing this idea as February as a romantic time for coyotes, but it is true. So explain to us what's going on in February for coyotes and why we might be calling it a romantic time for them.
Oh, yes. They are definitely making the most of this Valentine's Day, like I'm sure a lot of other people out there will be tomorrow, because it is the middle of coyote mating season. So it kind of kicks off at the end of January, and then it will last through the beginning of March.
So why is this mating season for coyotes, and what happens during mating season for coyotes?
Yeah, so we can talk a little bit about what happens for coyotes, because it's also something that people will probably already witnessed and will continue to, is just it's a time where they have a lot more activity. They're moving around, and so we definitely get a lot of reports from people of seeing coyotes a little bit more frequently. It doesn't mean that there's more coyotes. They're just active as they're out there looking for love, looking to secure mates and secure their territory.
So when you say we see them moving around, like where in a time when they're not moving around as much, where are they hanging out that we don't see them as much?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I will say that they are active year-round. Okay. So seeing a coyote at any time of day really is totally normal. Okay. It's just this, we just tend to get an increase in reports and sightings, particularly during mating season, because they're just kind of cruising around, especially in the middle of the day when things are just a little bit warmer. In the wintertime, it's a little bit more attractive for them to be out during that time too.
I see. And so so as you say, mating season starts to begin the end of January. We're kind of square in the middle of it now. Why is it that they do it this time of year, and is this the only time of year that they do it?
So yes, it is the only time of year that they do it, is just this mating season. And it's really usually when wildlife have their mating seasons, it's tied to when it's most advantageous to have their young. So that is in the springtime for coyotes, because I know it's hard to imagine now being in like the depths of winter, but come April, May, things are green, things are growing, and more food becomes available. Insects are out there. Small mammals are also reproducing during that time. And so there's a lot of food then. And so you backtrack that to mating season occurring about 2 months before those pups would be born.
Okay, but you just did the math for me. I was going to say 2 months. 2 months seems very, it seems very quick for a gestation period. I guess maybe that's more common. I mean, I'm thinking about a human, right? You're talking about 9 months from, mating season to birth. But here, 2 months, that seems pretty quick.
Yeah, for coyotes, it's normal. It's just about 2 months, say 60-ish days of a gestation period or pregnancy. And that can really vary across wildlife, too. So a really great example is opossums. We have Virginia opossums here in Massachusetts. They are marsupials. And so their gestation period is like less than 20 days. And then they give birth to like a little bean, and that eventually goes into their pouch that they have. Then it continues to develop. And then obviously compared to humans, looking at 9 months. So there is like this big range, and coyotes sit at that 2 month.
Okay. And so when coyotes have babies, how many are we talking about? Is it 1? Is it 10? Is it somewhere in between? Does it vary?
It varies, and we can talk about why it varies too, because it has a little bit to do with us, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's talk about it.
The range could be anywhere from 1 to 12 pups.
1 to 12?
1 to 12.
All in one shot?
Yeah. On average, we're looking at like 4 to 8 pups is the average.
4 to 8?
Yeah.
That's still, in 2 months, 4 to 8. Boom, coming.
Yep. Yeah. And when they're born, they're very immobile. They're very, not particularly developed. Their eyes are closed. So it's not like they're coming out ready to rumble.
Yeah.
They still got a lot of developing to do, and they'll do that in their den for about 8 weeks until they really start to be more mobile and out on the landscape, and people might actually start to see them come like June time.
Okay, we're talking with Meghan Crawford from MassWildlife about coyotes who are in the midst of mating season here on Valentine's Day Eve. You mentioned their dens. You mentioned the fact that they've got a couple weeks that they got to kind of be taken care of. It sounds like in these dens.
Yeah.
Where do coyotes make their dens, and what's going on in that time period where they are pretty vulnerable, and who's taking care of them? Is it both parents? Is it one of the coyotes, the mother, the father?
Yeah. So First, we'll say coyotes live in every city and town in mainland Massachusetts.
That is a crazy fact.
Yeah.
So every single town, every city, town, municipality, there are coyotes living there.
In mainland Massachusetts. So
That's
the exception
wild.
being the islands. But
Okay.
yeah.
No coyotes on the island.
No coyote. Well, there's no established breeding population of coyotes on Martha's Vineyard or Nantucket at this time.
Okay.
But yes, absolutely in mainland Massachusetts, and even in like places like Boston, like right here, where they are really good at living alongside people. There are coyotes that are going to be born in those very developed spaces like Boston and live their entire lives there. So they know Boston just as well as some of our listeners do.
That's awesome.
So their dens, though, they're really only tied to that den during that denning season. Again, April to May is when they're really tied there. Otherwise, they're really using their broader home range more widely. But their den can be, say, underneath fallen over trees. It can be on slopes. It can be on like rocky ledges. But they can use like human provided dens in a sense too, right?
Yeah.
If someone has a shed way out back and it's easy to dig under there, a coyote could utilize that as a den, but they do tend to stick to kind of like dense natural spaces to be in those dens.
And do they build protection sort of in an area, or is it just some sort of naturally occurring shape and then they just say, this is now my home?
They'll dig it out. So they'll dig it out themselves. They'll start to do that in March and start to prepare to give birth to those pups. There are cases, though, where they'll like kind of hijack another animal's little dugout space. So say like a woodchuck maybe has spent some time digging out a hole for them and maybe abandoned it at some point. A coyote might come along and go, this is perfect, just needs to be a little bit bigger. And so they'll dig it out a bit more.
We're talking with Meghan Crawford from MassWildlife about coyotes here on this Valentine's Day. Now, when they are out there sort of, cruising, as you say, looking for mates, what kind of behaviors are they exhibiting while they are doing this? Or do they just go out like just kind of like for a stroll? Or are there particular things that they're doing to try to attract a mate or to try to, kind of say, hey, I'm here, I'm available, I'm ready?
Yeah, so vocalizations become a lot more frequent during this mating season. There is like this myth that perpetuates that coyotes vocalize to announce that they've had like a successful hunt, and that's not true. Coyotes vocalize really just to communicate with other coyotes and other members of their family group.
We have a little sound right here of coyotes vocalizing. By the way, special thanks to Craig Windsor for this sound. Let's hear a little of this, and then maybe you can describe what we're hearing.
Yeah.
So that's them feeling very calm and placid and satisfied. What is that sound?
Yeah, and even maybe, I don't know if you can see the video over there, but can I ask you, how many coyotes do you think are in that sound bite?
Let's hear it again. How many coyotes? Let's see if I can... I think it's 2 coyotes, 3 parrots, and some other kind of animal.
Some mix of it all.
No, really. Wait. Yeah. There's at least 2 rhythms that I hear, I think. So there's at least 2.
Yeah, so you're right. There are at least 2. There are 3 that we can see in that video.
Okay.
So that was taken in southeast Massachusetts by like a trail camera was able to capture that of 3 coyotes making those vocalizations together. And that was in January 2024. So that's a really good example of the vocalizations that can occur during the mating season. And what people might be hearing is like the sound of romance out there at this time.
Okay. When it comes to romance for coyotes, what are their sort of relationship practices, so to speak? Are these animals that mate for life? Are these animals that have never met? They just kind of get together for one beautiful night and then move on with their lives? Do they, mate with multiple partners over multiple years? What's the sort of range of quote unquote romance in the lives of coyotes?
Yeah. So we can talk about our coyote social organization is a good way to start. So there's sort of 2 groups. About 70% of our coyote population are a part of family groups. And these are established groups that center around an alpha male and an alpha female. They are the breeding individuals.
And when we say family, are they all related by blood, or they have just all kind of grouped under somebody that they have deemed the alpha male and female?
Often there will be relatives in there, but it's not like hard and fast, as there can absolutely be individuals in there that have not mated with one another and they're not like necessarily the offspring. But So you have those two alpha male, alpha female. They're the ones that are reproducing, and they are monogamous, meaning that they're generally not going to mate with others, and they will mate with one another like many years in a row. But they are capable of like ending up with another mate if that's how their life goes.
So they cheat sometimes.
If say, for example, unfortunately, like mortality does occur, and so if one of those alpha males that happens, another one can step up and become that alpha male. But otherwise in that family group, there are what we call helpers usually, which are just like subordinate coyotes. They can be coyotes from the previous litter. So yeah, there's a lot of like relation there maybe, or they could be coyotes that kind of just join the pack. And then there'll be the pups from that year. And those all together make up a family group. And like I said, about 70% of our coyotes belong to these family groups where they have an established range. They really defend that territory, and they're centered around those alphas.
What is the other 30%?
Yeah, so those are what we call the transients. They're solitary. They're usually the more subordinate individuals, younger individuals that just haven't quite been able to weasel their way into a family group. And so they live on like the fringes of the established coyote populations.
This is kind of sad.
I know. That's what I'd always, but so they're always kind of looking for love.
Solitary transients living at the fringes.
Yeah, they're living at the fringes and they're on the edge of those home ranges, always just like ready to step in, which is a big reason why coyote populations are so successful and why they're like here today, tomorrow, and into the future, is that even in the face of mortality, like we talked about, those transients are always ready to step in and be like, I could be the alpha. If you let me join your group, I can do it. And they'll reproduce, create pups, and the rest is history.
Do we have a sense of how often one of this 30% of transients do sort of get adopted into the larger 70%? Like, what kind of upward mobility is there for a coyote on the fringes?
I'm sure someone out there knows that answer. I do not know, but it is interesting to think about is how frequent those dynamics occur. But yeah, I mean, coyotes aren't necessarily exceptionally long-lived individuals either.
How long? What's an average lifespan?
Under 5 years is average. They're capable of being more than that, upwards to 10, but under 5. Being a wild animal, you're out there taking care of yourself. Especially in Massachusetts, we have a lot of developed areas, roadways that can be a threat to wildlife. So there's factors at play there.
Well, speaking of being in Massachusetts, you mentioned roadways. You know, obviously, if they are everywhere in the Commonwealth, if they're in all of the cities and towns, and I know I don't need to tell our listeners this, people encounter coyotes all the time. So let's talk a little bit, since we are talking about coyotes, about how we ought to be interacting with coyotes. In particular, I think about people with dogs, and I think those with dogs understand that this could be a dangerous situation for them. But in general, let's talk about best practices for interacting with coyotes.
Yeah, there's 3 things that people should keep in mind year-round.
3 things. Get your pencils out, everybody.
Yeah, write it down.
Here we go.
So we'll talk about the number one that I'm keeping in my mind, and you mentioned it during this mating season, is protecting your pets. Because during mating season, coyotes can be more aggressive toward our unsupervised outdoor dogs, especially.
Just because they're fired up?
Because they'll view those, especially medium and large-sized dogs, as like other coyotes, as threats to their access to mates.
I'm trying to mate here, and you're going to get in my way.
You're intruding.
You're competition.
Exactly.
Get out.
So that's when those aggressive encounters can occur. So I think sometimes people think, I have a medium or large-sized dog, I don't need to worry about it. But think twice about that. Really directly supervise your pets, no matter what they are or what size, whenever they're outside, ideally within 6 feet of that pet. Don't be watching them from the back door. If you're 30 feet away, that coyote has no idea that you're there, and your presence isn't going to change their decision. Yeah. So you got to be there. It's your human presence with your pet that protects them.
If I'm with my pet, I'm out for a walk or whatever, and it's just like, bam, all of a sudden I'm face to face with a coyote, then what do I do?
Yeah, so generally, coyotes are generally wary of people. They're going to keep their distance. If you have your pet on that leash is 6 feet or shorter, you're going to be typically in a totally fine position. But if a coyote is getting a little comfortable or a little close for comfort, feel free to scare it away. Say, hey, get on out of here. This isn't a space for you to be comfortable. Throw things in that animal's direction. If you're close to home and you want to, you can tuck your dog back inside, and then I want you to come back outside and scare that coyote off.
Scare it?
Yep. So we call that hazing coyotes. And that's actually the third. That would have been third on my list, so we can skip to that one.
All right, so number 2 is number 3, which is hazing coyotes. And literally, you're saying just like stand there and be like, hey, get out of here. Like, just yell at it?
So it's using nice dominant body language. That is the way to speak coyote. That's like coyote language, is that they use dominant behavior to chase each other out of their territories. So we just got to do the same thing. So
describe physical dominant. Like,
as me as my
human,
5'2".
Is it just like flex, like I'm flexing my muscles kind of thing?
Something like that. I would say, let's imagine a situation is a coyote is maybe in your backyard.
Yes.
And you're like, I don't want them there. So you're going to step outside. You can walk toward that animal. You can use that nice kind of confident stance, wave your hands above your head, shout. You can say whatever you want. I'm not going to judge you. Your neighbors might, but I won't. Whatever you want to say. Throw things in their direction. You can use an air horn, or there's like free apps you can put on your smartphone that are nice loud sounds, and scare them off until they fully left the area. So,
and you can be confident that if you are doing this, you're approaching it, you're throwing things at it, it's not going to come at you.
Yeah, so I give people this advice every day,
Okay.
and I've never had someone call me back and go, that went terribly wrong. Just make sure to do it into an open space. So you never want to haze an animal into a corner. It needs to have a safe exit. So never across a busy road, into open space, and then do it until they fully left the area.
Okay, so that was number 3, but we got to go back to number 2. What's number 2?
And number 2 is arguably the most important one year-round, is to never feed wildlife. So first, never purposely feed wildlife.
Okay.
That's some solid advice there. It's not good for wildlife. It's not good for people. But also try not to accidentally feed wildlife either. So coyotes, they're opportunistic omnivores. They kind of eat everything that we eat. And unfortunately, we as people provide a lot of food.
A lot of stuff that's not good for them, or for us, for that matter.
And it attracts them to our yards. So think of bird feeders are a culprit there too. So take those down, secure your trash, enclose your compost, clean up outdoor pet food, protect your backyard chickens. Those are all foods that the coyote's going to come in and take advantage of, causing it to spend more time in your yard and get more comfortable around people. So never purposely feed wildlife, including coyotes, and then also try not to accidentally feed them by like looking at your property and just going, okay, is anything available for wildlife to be taking, and how do I clean it up?
Okay, so if I can't feed them and I do want to do something nice for a coyote, can I do something nice for a coyote, or should I really be like, no, if I see a coyote, I should haze them and not feed them and get them out?
Yeah, we always say like sometimes the best things you can do for wildlife is just enjoying them from a distance, and that can be really hard, right? Because it's not so much of an action as people really want.
Yeah.
But of course, there are good things that people can do for wildlife just generally. One great thing is, once again, we head into those warmer months, which I really hope are coming soon. We can plant some native plants that provide food and shelter for just wildlife in general in a more healthy way that's not so intense like bird feeders are. We can advocate for land protection. Those are really great things for us to do. Doing community cleanups, participating in those actions can help coyotes and other wildlife in ways that don't have like unintended harm.
All right, good advice. We're talking with Meghan Crawford from MassWildlife about coyotes. Before I let you go, we've got a couple questions coming our way over the text line.
Sure.
One is pronunciation of coyote. Is it coyote or coyote?
I think it depends on who you're talking to.
Okay,
I don't
so
think
are
I wouldn't
both
say
okay?
either. Both are fine.
What do you say?
I say coyote.
Okay.
Yeah, but coyote is perfectly fine too. Yeah.
Okay. Question number 2. Other animals that are in heat right now. One texter mentioned skunks are, foxes, question mark?
Yeah, both are true. So striped skunks are also in their mating season right now. Red foxes and gray foxes are. Bobcats, beavers, lots of different animals actually in Massachusetts are in their mating season. They all are kind of doing their own thing. They're doing that stuff differently than coyotes necessarily. But again, that's really tied to, think of a couple months from now is those spring months, and that's when food is plentiful.
Do skunks get aggressive when they're mating the way coyotes could?
I would say, I won't claim myself a skunk expert, but what I can share is that skunks generally, when temps get below 32 degrees, they spend a lot of time in a den. So they're not true hibernators, but what they do is they get into this usually very exceptionally restful state where they tuck away when temps are under 32. And then when they rise above 32 is when they'll emerge from those dens, kind of stretch their legs, maybe find other skunks, find a little bit of food, and then tuck back into their den. So good thing to keep in mind for people with pets going outside is once temps get above 32, especially at night, is that your dog could end up face-to-face with a skunk. So just be prepared.
Okay. Now, you mentioned before people reaching out to you about, questions you get a lot about coyotes. Do you get a lot of questions? Do you get them do people call you in the middle of an encounter with coyotes?
I don't don't think I've ever gotten a call in the middle of encounter. I've gotten calls where a coyote is actively in their backyard and they're calling with questions or concerns about that, wondering if a response is needed. I do field a lot of questions about coyotes, and I'd say like more than 90% of them can just be like remediated with a little bit of education. I think people are just still learning how to live alongside them or what is normal for them. And so just a little bit of education, a good conversation is all it takes.
Final question before I let you go. Generally speaking, how is our coyote population doing?
They're fine. Yeah, our coyote population, we call them common and abundant. Their population is stable, so they're not increasing or decreasing. They're relatively
living
stable.
their lives.
They're just fine, and they're celebrating love right now.
All right. We've been talking with Meghan Crawford. She's a community engagement biologist for Mass Fish and Wildlife. Happy Valentine's Day to all the coyotes out there. Stay with us just ahead. It's also today, Friday the 13th. We will talk with one expert on folklore about how this quasi-holiday came to be. That's ahead on the Curiosity Desk. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Arun Roth. Today on GBH's All Things Considered, the Trump administration is suing Harvard for access to the university's admissions files. The Healey administration rolls out a new AI tool for state workers, but not everyone is on board. And world leaders are gathered for the Munich Security Conference, and once again, all eyes are on President Trump. More from inside the conference and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH's All Things Considered.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And the Peabody Essex Museum, presenting Edmonia Lewis, Said in Stone, a retrospective of the 19th century Black woman sculptor. More at pem.org. And Fixed Dental, offering permanent teeth-on implants, customized in their laboratory, enabling their doctors and technicians to oversee every aspect of the smile design. Learn more about all the treatments offered at Fixed at fixeddental.com.
You're listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We're streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. Happy Friday the 13th, everyone. And then I say to myself, do you wish somebody a happy Friday the 13th? I mean, probably not, but maybe. I don't know. And that question is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, really, what is the deal with Friday the 13th? Why, of all days, is this bad luck? Where did the superstition come from? Why does it make people uneasy? This being the Curiosity Desk, we are going to seek answers to all of that and more. And here to help us on our quest via Zoom is Professor Kerry Noonan, who teaches folklore at Champlain College in Burlington, Vermont. Welcome to the Curiosity Desk, Kerry.
Thank you so much.
And if you think her connection with Friday the 13th ends there, you're sorely mistaken in a delightful twist. She's also a former actress who appeared in the Friday the 13th series, part 6 to be specific. That's Jason Lives, I believe, for those of you keeping score at home. Now, also, critically, do you have a good Friday the 13th story? Are you in the middle of a stretch of bad luck and you want to know if it really is because you broke a mirror a couple years ago? Do you have another superstition that you follow that you can't bring yourself to shake? Give us a call right now. 877-301-8970 is the number. Call or text at 877-301-8970. Kerry is standing by to help us through that. Okay, Kerry, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you. So let's begin by talking just in general about Friday the 13th and why it has kind of solidified itself as a particularly ominous day. Where did we get this?
Okay, well, so I'm a folklorist, as you said, and folklore really looks at informal culture, and often that was oral culture. So we don't really know when this began. It's very hard, unless someone writes something down in the past, we don't know when it started. However, belief that 13 was unlucky, and maybe even that Friday the 13th was unlucky, started to be alluded to a little bit in the Middle Ages. People today, we often retroactively try to say, oh, this is why we do that.
Yeah.
And most of those are also kind of folklore. They're not verifiable. But some of the reasons people have come up with, which I am not saying this is why, but people think it's because, On November 13th, 1002, King Ethelred the Unready did the St. Brice's Day massacre of a bunch of Danes. Most people don't seem to care about that. Or October 13th, 1307, the Knights Templar were all arrested by King Philip IV of France. Again, doesn't seem to be in a lot of people's consciousness.
Well, speak for yourself. I celebrate that one every year.
I know you're very sad about this. Yes.
Yeah.
But what we do know is that ideas about 13 started to surface, and perhaps it was because there were 13 people at the Last Supper. So in Christian Western Europe, this was obviously a story that everybody knew, and it was Jesus and the 12 disciples, and that didn't turn out so well for Jesus.
It's not good for Jesus, yeah.
Yes, no. So that was sort of alluded to. Also, Fridays separately were often problematic in the Middle Ages because Friday was believed to be the day that Christ was crucified. But because the Middle Ages liked to find parallels between the New Testament and the Hebrew Bible, they said, well, if Friday was Good Friday, then Adam and Eve must have sinned and eaten the apple or the fruit of the tree on a Friday, and Cain must have murdered Abel on Friday, and the flood must have begun on a Friday.
Anything bad that happened was clearly on a Friday.
All of it was on Fridays. Now, of course, this is only Christian Europe because, of course, in Judaism, Friday is the eve of the Sabbath, the holy day. It's not a problem. It's not a problem day. In Islam, Friday is the holy day. So that's not a problem in Islam either. So it's mostly Christian Europe that was thinking about this. There are folk tales where, like in Sleeping Beauty, they invite 12 fairies to bless the baby who becomes Sleeping Beauty, and they forget to invite the bad fairy, so she's the 13th one. So obviously there was already an idea that it was bad to have 13 people at a gathering. There seemed to have been in the 1700s, there's a written reference to someone saying that, it's bad luck to have 13 people at a dinner party. And funnily, and the tarot card death, they didn't used to be numbered, but we know that by 1565, we have evidence that the tarot card death was given the number 13. So again, these ideas were coming together in this way, and they seem to resonate. However, in 1881 in America, there was this club founded called the 13 Club, and it was by anti-superstition people. And so they had
amazing. This sounds like a scene in a Simpsons, episode. Like we're the anti-superstition peoples. All right, so I'm sorry I took you off the rails there. So what did the 13 Club do? 1881.
Yeah. Get this, it had 13 members. They had 13 courses at their dinner. They ate in room number 13, and they got together on the 13th of every month, and they started their dinner at 8:13 p.m. So they were just, and to go into the room for dinner, you had to walk under a ladder.
Oh, amazing. But that's very, I love that because that's very in this time of the rise of science and kind of being like, enough with this superstition. We're going to do all this bad luck stuff right here and just show that nothing could possibly go wrong. You're listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH. We're talking with folklore expert Kerry Noonan about superstitions and such on this Friday the 13th. Phone lines are open at 877-301-8970. Would love to hear your Friday the 13th stories. Would love to hear about superstitions you either don't partake in or do partake in, where they came from. Right now, we're going to go to Katie in Cambridge. Katie, you are on the Curiosity Desk. What do you got for us?
Hey, yeah. So I'm not a superstitious person in general, but this one came from my high school math teacher. Shout out Miss Khan. She said that on the first day of every month, so Feb 1st, Jan 1st, the first words out of your mouth, if it's rabbit, then you'll have good luck for the whole month. And I usually don't remember to do it, but on the months when I do say rabbit first thing, I feel like I have good luck all 4 weeks.
I love it. Thank you, Katie. I saw you nodding. You sort of mouthed with a rabbit. You knew it was coming. So what is it? Tell us about rabbit.
Well, this is a very common belief. And of course, it's related to older beliefs about how do you get an auspicious beginning of something? When we begin a new venture, begin a new month, begin a new anything, we want to have it be auspicious and to get rid of bad luck. And a lot of our luck beliefs are about keeping bad luck away and attracting good luck. That's why we have the old custom of carrying a bride over the threshold, because it would be bad luck to start your new marriage by stumbling. So you avoid that by carrying her
Oh,
over.
really? So this is to so it is to avoid it's not necessarily for good luck. It is to avoid bad luck.
And there's all kinds of beliefs in various parts of Europe. Like in Italy, you make the horns and turn them if you say something you want to avert the bad luck. Or in America, we like say knock wood to dispel any possible bad luck. In Eastern European Jewish culture, you spit 3 times after saying something that you don't want to jinx it. So you go. So there are various ways that we have of trying to avoid bad luck. But I just want to say one quick thing. Anthropologist named Malinowski was studying beliefs, folk beliefs in the middle of the 20th century. And he said a very interesting thing. He said, magic beliefs and behaviors bridge the gap between what we can control and the outcome that we want. And when that gap between what we can control and the outcome that we want is big, we fill it with magical beliefs and behaviors to try and get some control over the situation. So if you're a professional sports athlete, ask any of them, how do you prolong a winning streak?
Yeah, absolutely.
And because you can practice all you want, and it isn't going to guarantee that you're going to win that game. The same thing with fishing, the same thing with childbirth, the same thing with actors. I used to be an actor, same thing with actor superstitions, because live performance, you don't know what's going to happen. So it's an attempt to sort of control the uncontrollable, to bridge that gap between what we can control and the thing that we want.
We're talking with folklore expert Kerry Noonan about superstitions on this Friday the 13th. We want to hear yours, the ones you follow, the ones you don't. What are your thoughts on this kind of stuff? 301-897. Oh, my goodness gracious. Give us a call at 877-301-8970. That's 877-301-8970. Call or text. We're talking about superstitions with Kerry Noonan on this Friday the 13th. Can we talk about the word superstition itself? Because it's so interesting, the range of things that we either do or don't categorize in this way. I was thinking about this morning, and it's like, as you point out, something like walking under a ladder, which the 13 Club did, right? I think that's one that, most people would look at and sort of scoff at. They'll be like, it's going to be fine if you walk under a ladder. It's no big deal, right? Then you have something like knocking on wood, which you just mentioned, which I think even people who don't consider themselves superstitious will go ahead and do, kind of all the time. Then take it a step further, and you've got something like when somebody sneezes, you'll say Gesundheit or God bless you as a matter of just like kind of propriety. But that also is that's also a superstition. So the word superstition and what we categorize as superstitions, talk to me a little bit about that, especially somebody in your field.
Absolutely. Well, I tend to use the more neutral term folk belief because, as I was explaining to my mom once when I was applying for grad school, essay, and she said, why do you say folk belief instead of superstition? I said, well, that's because a superstition is somebody else's folk belief that you think is stupid, which is why we like to say, well, I'm not superstitious, but. So I like to use the term folk belief, which is more neutral. But I think a lot of people, you may or may not full on believe it, like the last caller may not full on believe that saying rabbit, rabbit is going to affect something, but we often take the attitude, well, it couldn't hurt.
Yeah.
I want to hedge my bets. I don't want to jinx anything. It couldn't hurt. So why not say rabbit, rabbit? Why not avoid that ladder? Why not knock wood? So we're sort of like, we might not have a full on commitment to it, but we're a little unsure. So we're going to, like, if I spill salt, I am going to throw it over my left shoulder just in case.
Yeah, it's a low barrier to entry, and like, just, why not? But what's going on in our brains that we do that? I mean, and is that something that you see, that notion of like, well, I'll just kind of do it anyway? Is that common across cultures? Is that one of the reasons why there are so many of these folk beliefs?
I think it is very common across. It's human behavior. A psychologist would give you a different answer than the one I'm giving. Folklorists, we tend to not try to necessarily explain why our brains are doing it, but we look at what do human beings get out of doing this, and what symbolic meanings does it have? Like, why rabbits? Is a rabbit associated with new beginnings? Rabbits are associated with luck, as in rabbit's feet, although people say it wasn't lucky for the rabbit. But
yeah.
But so I would look at the symbolic meanings first, and rather than and you'd have to talk to a psychologist or a neurologist to talk about make our brains do this. But I think partly it's because we live in a world that we can't control. There's all kinds of stuff we can't control. And these are ways that human beings have developed over time to try and control things. Like in Italy, 13 is just fine. In fact, it's kind of lucky. But what's bad is, oh wait, where did I just write this? Oh, it's Friday the 17th is bad.
Oh, interesting. So Friday the 13th, no big deal in Italy, but Friday the 17th could be bad.
Yeah, exactly. So you have different, and also in Chinese cultures, in Mandarin, the word for resembles the word for death. And so 4 is the unlucky number. So you'll find, like in hotels in Western Europe, we tend to avoid the 13th floor.
Yeah.
However, in Hong Kong or in Shanghai, other places, they avoid the 4th floor.
Fascinating.
And then you have a problem in a city like Hong Kong, which had a European colonizing population, and it had a Mandarin-speaking population and a Cantonese-speaking population. So hotels sometimes would try to avoid both the 4th floor and the 13th floor.
Talking with folklore expert Kerry Noonan about superstitions on this Friday the 13th. Phone lines are open, 877-301-8970. Let's go to Renee in Greenwich. Welcome to the Curiosity Desk, Renee.
Hi. I wanted to share a superstition that one of our babysitters had, which is if you said the name Tinkerbell, she felt that you had to clap 3 times to keep Tinkerbell alive afterwards. And so my kids would, on occasion, say the name Tinkerbell just to see if she would, and she did. And I have to say, I even did it 1 or 2 times because I was curious, and I said, do you really think that about Tinkerbell? And sure enough, she would clap 3 times to keep Tinkerbell alive.
Excellent. Thanks for the call, Renee. I've never heard that one. Have you heard that one before?
This one, I've never heard it in folk belief. However, I know where it comes from. It comes from J.M. Barrie's play, Peter Pan, which was written in the early 1900s, where basically Tinkerbell drinks the poison meant for Peter Pan, put out by Captain Hook, and she's dying. And Peter Pan says to the audience, if you believe in fairies, clap your hands, and that revives Tinkerbell. So it saves her from death from drinking the poison meant for Peter. So that was made up in the imaginative brain of J.M. Barrie, and it appeared in his play. So I'm sure that this babysitter heard, or someone that they knew heard something like from the play, and it got passed. It went from a play into sort of folk belief.
Very interesting stuff. We're speaking with Kerry Noonan, professor of folklore at Champlain, and we'll talk about this in just a minute, a former victim of Jason Voorhees. Stay with us. We have a little bit more with Kerry coming up. Phone lines are open, 877-301-8970. Give us a call. This is the Curiosity Desk. We'll be back with more here on GBH.
Thanks.
We're heading back to Minnesota Nice and Minnesota Noir for our next Wednesday watch party.
Oh, yeah?
It's Fargo, the Coen brothers' snow-crusted crime classic where a bad plan gets worse, a car salesman gets desperate, and Frances McDormand's Marge Gunderson gets to the bottom of things.
Oh, you betcha, yeah.
Cue it up, watch along, and call in to tell us why this oddball thriller is still funny and strangely heartwarming, don't you know? That's on The Culture Show next Wednesday at 2 on GBH 89.7.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And Cambridge Savings Bank. CSB is committed to improving the financial well-being of local small businesses through financial education and banking services. Learn more at cambridgesavings.com. Member FDIC. And Safety Insurance, offering a variety of home insurance products to cover your home's increased value. You can ask an independent agent about safety insurance. Safety Insurance will help you manage life's storms.
You're listening to the Curiosity Desk on GBH. I'm Edgar B. Herwick III. We're streaming live at youtube.com/GBH News. If you're just tuning in, we've got folklore authority Kerry Noonan with us. We are talking all things superstitious on this Friday the 13th, 877-301-8970. If you want to give us a call, we're going to get back to the calls in just a second. But as we've teased a couple of times, Kerry, I do want to quickly talk about the fact that, remarkably, you were also in Friday the 13th, Part 6. We've got a little sound right here from that movie. Here's a little clip where your character, Paula, is comforting a young camper who has stumbled upon a bloody machete.
Because grown-ups think it's funny to be scared. What? Never mind. I can't believe it's that late. No one called. I better...
Who are you calling?
Why don't we go and find Sissy in court first?
Wait, what if they try to scare us?
Well, we'll scare them right back.
Okay.
Okay.
Very, very nice. How was that experience? How did you get hooked up with that film?
Well, I was an actor. I got my undergrad degree in theater at UCLA, and I had been acting for a while, and I went up for this film. I don't really like slasher films, so I didn't know the story of the franchise, but my sister loves them, and so I called her up and I said, tell me what the story is before I go into the audition. But our script, I really like the script. The writer-director, Tommy McLaughlin, did a great job because he made it supernatural, where before it hadn't been. He sort of Frankenstein, and we revived Jason from the dead with lightning and stuff. And also, interestingly enough, most of the earlier Friday the 13th, people like misbehaved and get killed, like they do drugs or have sex.
Absolutely.
And kills them. In ours, we're all really nice and we get killed for no reason. But also, it's a very self-referential film. He references the fact that it's scary, like you just heard in that clip you played. I have a nice death scene where there's a lot of fake outs where you think I'm going to die. And also, gee, the bloody machete disappeared. Why on earth didn't I think that was a problem? But I just thought, oh, well, my friends are just goofing on me. But it was a lot of fun. I had a wonderful time shooting it. I love the cast members. That little girl was great to work with. And we shot it in Hard Labor Creek State Park in Georgia.
Very, very cool. You're listening to The Curiosity Desk here on GBH. We're talking with folklore expert Kerry Noonan, all about superstitions on this Friday the 13th. We're going to go Attleboro. Welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Thank you.
What do you got for us?
Hi. Yes. So growing up, my mother's mother, Italian, I'm not sure if that has anything to do with it, but if you dropped a comb when you're brushing your hair and it fell on the ground, you had to step on it to ward off bad spirits.
Oh, stepping on the comb. Thank you for your call, Lori. Stepping on the comb. You got anything on stepping on the comb for us, Kerry?
Lori, that's a new one on me. I love that.
Excellent.
Of course, I have to admit that Italian folklore is not my total forte, but that's great. I would love to learn more about that.
Very, very good stuff. We've got a texter, and I've been wondering this myself, who asked, we mentioned a couple times in this segment, we've mentioned knocking on wood, which is very pervasive. I think something that a lot of people do. In fact, our producer, Aidan Connolly, even just this morning, we were talking about this upcoming show. I said something and he knocked on wood. Why is that one so pervasive? Do we know where that one comes from and why it's so widely adopted?
Again, because anything that's in oral tradition like that, we don't know when these things started. But here's my take on it as a folklorist. A lot of times to scare off bad luck, because we knock wood to avert bad luck, we're making a noise, right? And so a loud noise is going to scare away the evil spirits or the bad luck or the bad mojo or whatever. So that makes sense to me, symbolically speaking. I don't know why we say wood, except that perhaps knocking on stone would hurt our hands, and wood was a very common building material and available to everybody. So that's my best guess. But you're right, it is pervasive, and perhaps because it's easy and it doesn't require, like saying bless you or gesundheit, it doesn't require a huge level of commitment. So we all do it.
Very cool. Some more stuff coming in from the text line. Mason from Leominster says it's bad luck to say you're taking your last run when you're snowboarding. So we say 2 more, skip the last. I love that. And Pete in Marblehead says Friday the 13th is a special day. For him, it was his wedding day. He's divorced now, but acknowledges that him and his former partner acknowledge each other on the 13th when it's on a Friday. So he says happy Friday the 13th. Also, my father was born on a Friday the 13th. So an auspicious day in my family. Without him, there's no me. So thanks, Dad. We're going to go to Bella in Boston right now. What do you got for us, Bella? Welcome to the Curiosity Desk.
Hi, thank you. Loving it so far. I just wanted to share, I'm not too sure if I'm superstitious myself. I do believe in some aspects of the supernatural, but I wanted to share that I think pertaining Friday the 13th, I think that the reason something like this becomes so widely believed is more so in the practice of manifestation. Like when you wake up and you think you're going to have a bad day and you're mean to everyone and then everyone's mean back. And then you're like, oh, it's Friday the 13th. Of course, it was a terrible day. That's kind of my thoughts on that.
So, Bella, for you, when you wake up on a Friday the 13th, do you try to manifest, a good day or not?
That's a good question. I don't think I've ever really been. I think I'm kind of indifferent to it. I think I'm always trying to manifest a good day. Hopefully, I think that would be my answer to that. I've had a few weird experiences on Friday the 13th too, though. So that does interest me. as to why those things happen if I'm trying to manifest a good day.
So what are some of these experiences of which you speak?
One time I was hanging out with my friends. We were in our car. It was Friday the 13th, and the car died. And the vibe definitely felt spooky. It was just felt like a heavy night. I think maybe the car got towed. I don't even really remember. It was a couple years ago, but there's just the overall vibe of the night did feel spooky.
All right. Thanks for the call, Bella. Kerry, just in general, what do you feel about the notion of manifestation or even just the notion of it's sort of with any folk belief, it's just kind of like, are we just seeing what we're thinking about because we're thinking about it?
That's a really good point. I think human beings are pattern-seeking creatures. We like to notice patterns. Also, we sometimes look for explanations of events, whereas, if the car breaking down had happened on Tuesday the 29th, you would have thought for other you would have looked for other explanations, but because it was Friday the 13th, we see that one. And also, I like the idea of the deciding at the beginning of the day is oh no, this is going to be a bad day. It's sort of the psychological idea of a self-fulfilling prophecy. You sort of set yourself up to expect bad things. But also sometimes we notice things on a Friday the 13th that we would not notice on another day. On another day, I might spill my tea and just go, oh, well. But on Friday the 13th, I may think, oh, of course, because it's Friday the 13th. So I'm seeking for that explanation and that pattern.
Yeah. Yep. We're speaking with Kerry Noonan about superstitions on this Friday the 13th. Phone lines are open at 877-301-8970. Sherry in Boston, welcome to the Curiosity Desk. What do you got for us?
It's kind of a creepy one.
Well, we're here for that.
Used to always, yeah, I wish it wasn't, it didn't prove out to be true. My grandmother used to always say that if you open the door to a home and you smell roses and there are no roses around, that means somebody is going to die. Ooh. And usually somebody that you know. And every single time I've experienced that, within a couple of days, there's a death.
Oh my! Oh my! So
I know it's creepy. It's really creepy.
And you do. And when you say every single time you've experienced it, so multiple times you've sort of walked into a house and you smell roses, even though there are no roses.
Yeah.
Wow. Sherry, thanks for the call. I'm sorry that this has happened in your life multiple times. Kerry, what do you make of that?
Again, I echo your thoughts, but I'm sorry that this happened. I look at that and I say, this is really like an omen. This is like a sign or portent of things to come. And smelling roses, symbolically speaking, because what do we give at funerals? We give flowers.
Yeah.
And often houses are filled with flowers and often lilies. But so I can understand why those symbolic things come together to say, oh, it must be a portent or an omen of a death to come. I've never heard this before. It's really fascinating. But then again, you said that it happened to you. And so therefore you're going to hang on to it, remember it, because if a folk belief like this is verified in some way by your experience, then you're going to hang on to it. Because look, you've had proof for yourself. So we hang on to things where we see that pattern and it seems to explain things for us.
In general, Kerry, when you're studying this stuff, I mean, it seems like, to a certain extent, hearing you say that, it makes me think, well, with any of these that have hung around as long as they have, there has to be some number of people who have held on to that belief that it has hung on, right? So somebody is experiencing some level of this, or it would just fade into obscurity and we would forget all about it.
Absolutely. I mean, as a folklorist, I feel like my job is not to say that this is a true belief and this is a false belief. I'm not like a debunker. I'm not a scientist. I'm a folklorist. I study these cultural patterns and behaviors. So I would say, yeah, if people hold on to things that work for them, and if it doesn't work for you, you let it go. You don't have that belief anymore, or don't tell that story anymore. But if it works for you, if it does something for you, if it seems to be verified in your life, of course you hold on to it and then pass it on to other people that you love.
Kerry, we're running out of time here, but I do want to ask before I let you go a couple of more things. One is, and I think we ought to ask, is there a downside to holding folk beliefs? Is there a downside to hanging on to superstitions, a little too tightly?
I mean, I think there's a downside to all kinds of things. There's a downside to how much tea I drink too.
Sure.
But so I don't think there's anything specifically pejorative just about folk beliefs. But of course, if they begin to make you feel hemmed in and like you can't take a step without reassuring yourself in a variety of ways, then perhaps that's not serving you so well. However, most folk beliefs, I believe, are pretty harmless, like one way or another, but also they give us a sense of control. They give us a sense that we can avert bad luck and bring good luck to ourselves and to people that we care about. So I don't think beliefs in and of themselves are good or bad. I think it's just how we interact with them and how we use them.
Yeah, our relationship with the belief itself. And that, as you point out, whether that's a folk belief or any other belief of any other kind, it can be healthy or it can be unhealthy. How about for you? Do you have a favorite folk belief? Do you have one that just delights you beyond compare? And or is there one that you actually like kind of really adhere to?
Well, I have to say I've been influenced by folks in my family to adhering more to the salt over the shoulder thing, which I didn't used to do when I was younger, because it would bother people around me if I didn't do that, right? And I think it was my grandma who told me that, like, if your left hand itches, you're going to get money, and if your right hand itches, you're going to get in a fight.
That's a fun one.
As an actor, because live performance is, you can't control it and all kinds of things can go wrong. So I adhere to a bunch of actor folk beliefs still, even though I don't maybe fully believe them, but like actors won't say the name of Shakespeare's Scottish play.
The Scottish play, indeed. Excellent.
And when I was a young actor, I was in a play with older actors, and I was whistling in the dressing room without thinking about it, and they were horrified because that's a no-no. And so they made me go outside of the dressing room, turn around 3 times, and spit before they would let me come back.
Very good stuff. All right, well, thank you so much. We've been speaking with Kerry Noonan, professor of folklore and interdisciplinary humanities at Champlain College in Burlington, Vermont. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Happy Friday the 13th. And happy Friday 13th to Jared Bowen down at the Boston Public Library. How are you, Jared?
I'm well, Edgar. How are you?
I'm doing well so far. Knock on wood.
Well played.
Thank you. What do you got going on the show today? It's the Week in Review, huh?
We're going to be talking about the Olympics. Maybe not the sports things that everybody else is talking about, but we'll be
We're going to do it the culture show way.
We're going to do it the culture show way because we'll be talking about the cheating Olympian. That is the Olympian who cheated on his girlfriend, right? And then talked about it. Yes, of course. And then we'll talk about Penisgate, which is getting a lot of attention. If you don't know what that is, we will have a full conversation about that. There's also, with Wuthering Heights coming out this weekend, a lot of conversation about whether or not Heathcliff is white and how he should be portrayed going forward. And then finally, a horse that's just come out of China for Lunar New Year. It's a little plushie with a frowny face. It was by accident, but people are thinking, well, this embodies the moment, so we'll talk about that.
That sounds great. That show's coming up in just a moment, so don't go anywhere. The Curiosity Desk is produced by Aidan Connolly, Rachel Armani, Olivia Corcio, Hannah Loss, and Nicole Garcia. Patty Daniels is the salt we throw over our shoulders. Our engineer is John LaClaw Parker. Special thanks to Andrew Goodman and Andrew Massawa for their audio engineering prowess. We will be back at it here, knock on wood, Monday on GBH 89.7 and streaming on YouTube. Until then, have a calamity-free Friday the 13th, a love-filled Valentine's Day, and watch out for coyotes, and stay curious out there.
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? We're talking all things arts and culture on The Culture Show, next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And the Cape Cod Foundation, committed to building resources to support community life on Cape Cod, including environmental conservation, arts and culture, and community development. Learn more at capecodfoundation.org. When United States lawmakers seek to review a list of books, librarians find themselves on the front lines of a national battle. Watch Independent Lens, The Librarians, tonight at 9 on GBH 44.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH Culture Show News Desk, I'm Henry Santoro. Happy Friday the 13th to all who celebrate. Me? Well, there are 2 dates that I sort of celebrate with music. One is Thanksgiving, and no, I do not partake in the annual playing of Arlo Guthrie's Alice's Restaurant, as good of a song as it is, but I do dust off my vinyl copy of Lynyrd Skynyrd's One More for the Road, and I crank up the song Freebird just as I'm putting the turkey into the oven. Been doing it Bunny's Super Bowl performance, as if we haven't heard enough about that, right? Well, it turns out that 40 of the 400 grass people were fired before the event even took place. Why? Because despite signing a very strict non-disclosure agreement, they kept posting photos on social media, describing the show online, and one grass person decided to cash in on the 40-pound outfit and listed it on eBay for $5,000. All because Bad Bunny wanted to bring the landscape of his Puerto Rican homeland to San Francisco.
Yes, babe.
That's this edition of the GBH News Weekly Friday Afternoon Culture Cast. I'm Henry Santoro. Next up, The Culture Show with my friend and yours, Jared Bowen, live at the Boston Public Library.
I'm Jared Bowen. Coming up on The Culture Show, scandal on the slopes, a cheating confession gone viral, a moment of grief and grace on the ice. This week at the Winter Olympics, a biathlete's public admission of infidelity upstaged a teammate's gold. And ski jumping, or rather ski junking, has given rise to Penisgate. Anti-doping officials investigate claims that athletes inflated body parts to score larger, more aerodynamic suits. And a young skater's emotional performance honoring the parents he lost in a DC plane crash. We'll recap the games from the drama to the dignity. Then we reflect on the life and career of James Van Der Beek, who has died at 48. From teen idol fame on Dawson's Creek to a second act defined by self-aware comedy, indie turns, and a willingness to poke fun at his own heartthrob legacy. And a factory flub turned a Year of the Horse stuffed animal into a Lunar New Year phenomenon. An upside-down mouth makes the toy look like it's weeping. And now the crying horse has become a dark horse hit, embraced as an emblem of how much people feel drained heading into the new year. We take on that and more right now on our Arts and Culture Week in Review.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
Welcome to The Culture Show, live from the Boston Public Library and streaming on the GBH News YouTube channel. I'm Jared Bowen.
I'm Callie Crossley.
I'm Lisa Simmons.
And we are going over the latest arts and culture headlines in our Week in Review, starting with a recap of the Olympics and one cheating Olympian. Norway's biathlon star Sturla Holm Lagerud hasn't been taking performance-enhancing drugs, but he stole headlines with a tear-streaked live TV interview after the race by confessing he'd cheated on his girlfriend and hoped she might take him back. It was a revelation that upstaged his teammates' gold medal moment and ignited a global backlash. So in case you missed it, here he is, this infidelity confession on a global stage.
Make different choices during our life, and that's how you make life, basically. So today I made the choice to tell the world what I did, so maybe there's a chance that she will see what she really means to me, and maybe not, but don't want to think I didn't try everything to get her back.
This is like watching an episode of The Office. It's so cringeworthy. You just can't walk away, but stop talking. Don't continue to talk and say the things you're about to say. So by the way, for this whole Olympic segment, we will not be talking about any sports, really. We'll just be talking about the cultural aspects of this, but a lot of people are parsing this, and of course the coda to this is the still anonymous girlfriend whom he cheated on after only 3 months into their 6-month relationship has come back and said, no, still no, and by the way, leave me out of, as Callie, as you often say, leave me out of your mouth.
Exactly. There's such a cadre of excellent psychiatrists and psychologists in Boston, and they would say it better than I'm going to say, or let me just parse it down to big old selfish. That's who this guy is, and that's what the ex-girlfriend is saying too. Are you kidding me? I mean, shut up already. Listen, it made me so mad. I forgot that his teammate won gold because he sucked up all the air in the room. But more to the point, as any one of these aforementioned good counselors would tell you, it was all about him.
All about him.
It didn't have anything to do with her. And so, go to therapy, get some help, and stop talking.
And leave her and leave her alone.
And leave her alone.
It's crazy because he's like, she's the love of my life, and she was the gold that I didn't get, and she's like, I didn't want any part of this. And I think it's, he's like, I just wanted to put everything on the table. Well, you put it on the wrong table, first of all.
Yeah.
And second of all, lesson learned, buddy. I mean, it's just, it is. It's selfish. I know that, he did this, and his teammates are mad because his teammate actually won gold, and we didn't even get to see that.
I didn't even know his name.
And there was another teammate who had died, and the gold winner was honoring the teammate who died, and then he takes the platform. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, I know, no, not at all.
Important.
Someone said others flatly suggested that trust isn't earned by television tears.
No,
we know.
The one thing that got me thinking, I saw a piece in Outside Magazine that there is, it's the equivalent of the runner's high that you get after a long performance like this. The chemistry in the brain changes, and you're racing, and you're thinking, I know how to get her back. I'll go on international television. That'll win.
Because she'll love that. I'll mention her, and then she'll be like, he's talking about me, so let me actually fly to Italy. I want to get there so quickly.
I also read that he had a gun in a hotel room at one point, and so
I
there's
can't even get to that.
Yeah.
No.
The lawyers would call it pattern and practice. Girlfriend has seen this before.
Yes.
So this was just on a larger stage. Get some help.
Exactly.
Stop talking.
I mean, I love that he said, this really did impact me. I probably could have fought harder for gold, but I had this mistake hanging over my head.
Oh, no.
Anyway, controversy gets even bigger at the Olympics because we're on to performance-enhancing drugs right now, and a possible scandal that gives new meaning to performance. In ski jumping, every inch counts, which leads us to Penisgate, centered on claims that some male athletes might be trying to game the sport's strict suit measurement rules by artificially enlarging their crotches, even allegedly injecting hyaluronic acid down there to secure more aerodynamic suits. So this comes out of a report that was in a German newspaper.
Yeah.
They haven't identified the athletes, but they have suggested, and this is now being considered and is being talked about at the Olympics this week, that yes, there is an injection that's happening to make down there bigger, so then therefore you get a bigger suit, and when you have more mass on your suit, that gives you a lot more lift when you're doing the ski jumping, and so there might be a there.
And to be clear, it's not just more mass in the suit overall, but in the specific space, which you can see on our here at the library at the pictures
streaming on
YouTube. Listen, first of all, call me so naive. I can't figure out how many ways people can scam. This is like, are you kidding?
I know.
I never heard of this. And then it turns out that in March of last year, the Norwegian team adjusted the seams around the crotch of their suits and got an 18-month ban.
Yes.
So it really works if you expand the area. Apparently, it gives you so much lift, you're like a glider going through. Okay.
Like a flying squirrel people have talked about.
It is.
Yeah.
But I mean,
this is...
It is
crazy.
true, though, all those things. But yes, they're constantly looking for ways that they can, up the competition or, put themselves in a better place. But it is. Apparently between the legs is the most aerodynamic place in order to catch air when you're flying through as a ski jumper. I mean, they've tried so many different ways. They've pulled the suit tighter when they're standing up, and then when they, when they go, it loosens up. And this happened in 2025. It was like really why this all like made this into 2026, and they're like checked at 3D. They have microchips in their suits. There are all these ways that they're trying to stop people from cheating, which is crazy. But yeah, the disqualification. They're sort of. Are they denying these rumors of the injection?
Well, we don't know exactly who they're investigating yet. And some people, to be clear, some people are saying within the Olympic community, no, there's no way this is happening. But I think there's been enough conversation at this point that also other people are looking at it. As we pointed out, the New York Times is considering it. And to your point, the fact that they've had to introduce all of these measures, because basically athletes seem to have found every manner of cheating possible, so they have found every law possible to stop it. Why not end
The next thing you know, they're just going to be painting their bodies with their suits.
Right. I just want to put it out here for people who are listening saying, could it make that much difference?
Yes.
The bigger the bulge, according to the scientists, it increases the girth by 2 centimeters, which then makes you go faster and higher, 5% faster and higher.
Because you get a bigger suit.
Right. But the point is that, it makes a difference.
It makes a huge difference, yes. I didn't mean that. But.
Well, I do not have the maturity to continue on this conversation.
I don't think I do either.
Thank goodness Marjorie isn't here, because we would both be on the floor right now. Well, when Ilya Malinin performed a backflip this week at the Olympics and landed on a single blade, the crowd went wild. Talk about flipping the script, though. Decades ago, Surya Bonali, a French black athlete, landed the same move, but she was penalized for it because it had been banned as too dangerous under skating's rules. Now the debate is whether the sport has evolved or simply rewritten who gets rewarded. So the great thing here is that the history was reintroduced immediately. So wonderful that this Olympian could do this and get all of the necessary applause. In fact, here's a little bit of the applause from the back flip this week at the 2026 Winter Olympics.
Into a triple axel. That's outrageous.
No one in the world can do that. Flip.
So yes, absolutely amazing to do this backflip and again land on one single blade. It deserves all the due attention, but we also deserve to remember the history. So this wasn't the first time this has been done, and the last time it was introduced by an Olympian, this French black athlete. She was, as I said, penalized for it, and she was also really criticized for it because she was doing this despite the fact that at that point the Olympic committee had said this can't happen because we find it too unsafe. They've changed their thinking for today in 2026, but she did it.
Mm-hmm. And it should be noted that I guess somebody had done it years before her, but landed on 2 skates.
1976 Olympics.
So when she's backflipped, she landed on 1 blade, which is even more difficult to do. And I just want to make it clear, because I had forgotten until this conversation started bubbling up online again as a memory. She was eviscerated. It wasn't a small, you broke the rules. It was ugly. And it sort of comes back to often black athletes have to deal with, you're not artistic. That was the criticism because of her athleticism. There's some of that's still around now, but it was huge in her case. And the backflip was used as an example of, see there, she can't be artistic. She can backflip, but so what? And we're going to penalize her, and they did.
Yeah. I mean, I actually remember watching her do this. And absolutely. So you had in the 1976 Olympics where somebody did it, and that's when they banned it, and that's when they said you can't do this anymore. This is too dangerous. Ice skating wasn't ready for it. She comes around. She knows that it is illegal. So when they talk about him doing the flip, it's illegal. It's the first time in 50 years that there's a legal backflip. But she did it because she knew she wasn't going to win a medal, and she did it to make a statement. And she did it to make a statement because she had been, criticized, as Callie, as you say, about having this athletic body. They never talked about her as being graceful graceful. She knew that she was sort of like, she was the first like black skater. I think Debbie Thomas came before her, but didn't look like everyone else. Wasn't skin and wavy and graceful, but she was incredibly athletic. So then, and so then she does it, and she said, yeah, I'm doing it as an act of defiance against standards of norms in skating. So now here we are in 2026. They say, okay, yes, you can do it now, and here's, which is great. It doesn't add to the points, but it does add to the impact. So if you do a backflip, you're not getting technical merit point. You're not getting technical points for it, but it will help you move your score up over the next person. But I mean, it's just like, she set the stage, just like Debbie Thomas set the stage for different artists, different athletes of color to get into the skating world. And so she still is around. Has been battling breast cancer, but she's still a mentor for skaters. Her Las Vegas house was burglarized, and she lost all her medals, but she's still very much a part of the sport and very revered now in skating.
Well, and I think we should absolutely be talking about it, because she did this in 1998.
Yes.
So that's what, 30 years ago.
Yes.
And
Yes.
a lot of what you both have just been talking about is you don't have, quote unquote, the body for this.
Right.
We know that chased Misty Copeland right to the end of her ballet career, which only ended about a year ago. And also the fact that here she was doing this at a time where she was criticized even for her costumes. Like there was basically nothing she could do that wasn't worthy of criticism, because she had the audacity to, quote unquote, the audacity to go out there and be a maverick and be individual. And if we flash forward to this year, we find no black figure skaters on the U.S. team, and you don't find very many on the other teams.
I would also like to just bring up her. She said, I was born too early, she told the Associated Press, but I broke the ice for other skaters.
Yeah.
So, which I think is incredibly graceful.
And I think we see the same thing with Simone Biles in the Summer Olympics.
Yes.
Constantly having to fight against the traditional look.
Well, in a very poignant performance this week, too, when Maxim Naumov took the ice for his Olympic debut, he was skating in the shadow of profound loss. His parents were among those killed in a Washington, D.C. plane crash last year that devastated the skating community. His performance was more than just points. It was also about carrying out the dreams his parents had for him. And let's hear him discussing the impact of his parents on his Olympic efforts with the Today Show recently.
The only way out is through. There's no other way. I don't have the strength or the passion or the drive or the dedication of one person anymore. It's three people.
And he has been very transparent about, of course, here's this young 20-something-year-old guy who...
24.
From the early stages, his parents were his coaches, and they were there with him. And in that horrible plane crash where there were so many losses, especially in the skating community, he lost both of his parents. He said for 8 months he couldn't even think about skating. And then harken back to the last conversation he had with his father, which was that his performance hadn't really gotten him to where he needed to be, certainly not in the Olympic realm, but his father worked with him and said, we're going to come up with a strategy to get you there. And now here he is a year later, and he's gotten there, and he's done well enough to continue on in the Olympics.
Yeah, he placed 14th earlier this week, carrying with him the photo of him as a little kid with his two parents, and also stitched inside his jacket something from his dad that said, expect the unexpected. So, I mean, really.
I know.
This is the kind of Olympic story that we all love. It's just so important. Very important for Bostonians. He trained here at the Skating Club of Boston in Norwood, Massachusetts. So a lot of people around here know him and feel for him, both excitement now for him and also the sorrow that he's had to carry for the last year. So he's competing again today. I don't know
on the
where
in the free skate.
Yeah, I think that's right. But they don't expect him to medal. But
it
he
doesn't.
made it.
And that's the whole thing. It doesn't even matter. I mean, I can't even imagine going out on that. It's already nerve-wracking anyway, right? But he does say they helped him through. and you're exactly right. The skating club of Boston, the 67 people that died on that plane that never should have. His parents were former world championships. I love when he was in that, they call it the kiss and cry area. Did you know that?
I didn't know that.
Oh my gosh,
Oh.
yes, when they go in to wait for their scores.
Yeah.
So they said, exactly, he held up the picture of his parents, and he got a standing ovation, and of course he did, to have to come through all of that. And I think that he, unfortunately, his first Olympics, his parents aren't here, but I think he's going to go on to be a great career. I think people will follow him, and I think he'll just continue to honor them and just continue to skate. But it's difficult. I don't know how he's gone through it.
I couldn't pick myself up off the.
No, but I'm so glad he qualified for the free skate,
Yeah.
and he gets to come back,
Mm-hmm.
and that's amazing.
And he certainly carried forward that resiliency that his father was talking about, seeing him in the skating rink to get forward, and now what he's doing in real life, and probably will be a model for so many people working through grief, and of course his was times two. Well, speaking of grief, we move from the Olympics now, because this week we also remember James Van Der Beek, who has died at age 48. He became one of the defining heartthrobs of late 90s television as the dreamy, aspiring filmmaker at the center of Dawson's Creek. Then years later, he delighted in upending that image, skewering his own teen idol mythology with sharp, self-aware performances that proved he was in on the joke. It's always interesting to watch actors who are in a role that so many people identify with and then continue to identify with for the rest of their career. And there are some actors who want to have nothing to do with it, and in fact they can get downright surly when you approach them about it. But he had this great sense of humor. He called himself a leading man and a clown in a leading man's body. So he was able to look at this legacy that he carried and have fun with it and enjoy the fame that came his way, the affection that came his way for people who loved that show, especially if you're on a show like Dawson's Creek and it's dealing with teen subject matters and sexuality. People grow up
Identity,
with you, so they're really bonded to you, and he was able to enjoy all of that.
I would compare this the show and its impact, its cultural impact, along with something like a Friends, because it's not just James's role in the show, but the show itself,
the ensemble,
is really emblematic of a time and a place, as you were saying. And so it has, when someone from the show, and particularly he as a lead character, dies, it's really a little bit shocking. And even though he was suffering from cancer, and to some degree it's expected, it makes an impact in the cultural landscape. I'll just note that here's something else that's interesting. We all think all these actors are rich.
Right.
And they've had to start a GoFundMe page for him to pay the medical expenses. And Steven Spielberg just added $25,000 to put the fund over $2 million because James Van Der Beek's character in Dawson's Creek idolized Steven Spielberg. And so, real life, fictional life all comes together here. And they're raising money so that the family can take care of his take care of the costs of this care that has built up over,
and the cost of their own living expenses,
true,
because
too.
they spent so much money on his cancer treatment. 6 kids, he leaves the whole family, and this is one of the issues that everyone's talking about now is colon cancer in younger men, especially. And he was gonna be really silent about it. He didn't really want to talk about it, but then he became sort of a spokesperson for it and making sure that people were getting their tests and everything. But you're absolutely right. I mean, movies like Dawson Creek and being in something like that at a young age, and you never knowing whether or not you're going to be able to move beyond that. But it was such a pivotal piece of television, as you said, Callie, sort of like this ensemble piece. But really, even when he was in Varsity Blues, right, it was sort of like a move in that particular time frame where kids were sort of like pushing against authoritarianism and really sort of like trying to come into their own. And he was everywhere. His face was everywhere. And we were looking at characters that were emotional and thoughtful. But you're absolutely right. That GoFundMe page, they said it filled up so quickly because everyone loved him. Everyone thought he was like one of the kindest people. So I think I hope this does bring attention to people taking care of themselves and understanding what they need to do.
I'm glad you said that. One more comment I want to make about him is he was a theater kid. So
yes,
I think
I was going to say that.
That might
16.
At 16, so that might speak to who he was as an actor too. That he, with such facility, he could go from the heartthrob role to making fun of himself to being on Saturday Night Live and to do the Jay and Silent Bob movies. And I remember seeing him
Dancing
in
with the Stars and The Masked Singer.
Exactly, and I remember seeing him thinking, that's the guy guy from Dawson's Creek, but that, which is a testament to him that he can be so transformative. But Lisa, I'm glad you brought that up because I think that there hasn't been enough conversation necessarily in this country about these changing notions of colorectal cancer, and that they're really advising people to start testing at age 45 now because they're finding so many people who are younger are getting cancer. So let that be an inspiration to people to take care of themselves as well. Well, coming up, a newly uncovered passage inside Manhattan's Merchants House Museum reveals it was part of the Underground Railroad. How historians connected the dots. That's next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
I'm Arun Roth. Today on GBH's All Things Considered, the Trump administration is suing Harvard for access to the university's admissions files. The Healey administration rolls out a new AI tool for state workers, but not everyone is on board. And world leaders are gathered for the Munich Security Conference, and once again, all eyes are on President Trump. More from inside the conference and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH's All Things Considered.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Johnson & Wales University, offering 3-year bachelor's degrees that combine academics with career preparation, helping students enter their professional fields sooner. Learn more at jwu.edu. And Fixed Dental, offering permanent teeth-on implants, customized in their laboratory, enabling their doctors and technicians to oversee every aspect of the smile design. Learn more about all the treatments offered at Fixed at fixeddental.com. And CrowdStreet, a platform providing individual investors direct access to private equity, private credit, and real estate. Learn more at crowdstreet.com.
GBH Daily is a newsletter that keeps you informed, connected, and ready to go every weekday morning. You can subscribe today and get it in your inbox at gbh.org/daily.
Welcome back to The Culture Show. I'm Jared Bowen, live from our GBH studio at the Boston Public Library. I'm joined by co-host Callie Crossley and Culture Show contributor Lisa Simmons. She's the artistic and executive director of the Roxbury International Film Festival and program manager, Madam. Heathcliff, the brooding anti-hero of Wuthering Heights. Nearly 2 centuries after it was published, the question still lingers. Who is he? Described by Emily Bronte as dark-skinned, his racial identity has long been debated. Now a new film adaptation out in theaters today has revived that mystery, reopening a conversation about how Heathcliff should be understood and portrayed today. So just to be clear, today, along with Margot Robbie, he is the white actor Jacob Elordi. But I think this is such a fascinating conversation, which Bronte experts point out has been happening for about 100 years now, and nobody is certain. But if you start to piece together what well, I guess we can each take a part of it, because I just realized we could talk about this for the entire show, and NPR, we probably should. If we hadn't started with Penisgate, maybe we could have. But the Bronte sisters were so aware in their time. They were studying sociology. They were consuming research. Theirs was a family that thought and examined and looked at the scope of the world and looked at the various classes of the world and what was happening to the people on the margins. So there's every reason to believe that the way she describes Heathcliff, that he would be somebody other than white, but we don't know for sure.
Well, I think we have some evidence from her. In the book, he's described as dark-skinned, black-haired, dirty, raggedy, or having a dusky complexion, or the use of the pejorative term as a gypsy, which generally means dark. Scholars say he's black, mixed race, or maybe of Romani ancestry. Most important, I think, in the way that she uses, however you want to come down on it, the ambiguity about his race is a big part of his being a social outcast within the novel setting. So black or dark or whatever is equated with being a social outcast. The last piece of evidence in the book is that he came from the Liverpool docks, which was a slave port. So there you have it. So there's a lot of evidence in that way. I think the other thing that we can consider, and I am not a scholar of this, so forgive me, scholars listening, saying I didn't get this right, but I would say that the fact that the Brontes lived in their lived experience was, critically white, critically Caucasian. So they're observing, and so often when you do that and start to deal with race from that time period, it's going to get squishy because she can only write from her perspective. She's not mingling. She's not at the docks mingling, hanging out with people. And this is, of course, a fictional tale of, with strife and all of that. And so to make her point, it seems to me, that Heathcliff was such an outsider, it makes more sense that he would be an outsider in a way portrayed as a black person, because that's the ultimate outsider in that time, for sure,
exactly.
And sometimes in this time.
And in the Bronte family, they were homeschooled. They were very isolated. They lived in the moors, and so. Obviously this is not autobiographical, but there are pieces in this book that are connected to her life, and I mean, she also felt very much like an outsider, social outsider, and so why not use that character? And there are so many things to talk about, like you said, Callie, about him coming from Liverpool, where mostly that's where orphaned kids and kids that were in the quote unquote slave trade, although it had been over by then in England, where he came from. But I just I mean, I think it's really interesting that every time they make this film, not every time, because there have been renditions of the film made with darker male characters, but it's sort of like it just makes people feel more comfortable. It makes it easier to sort of like turn this into a romantic story instead of how layered the book actually is if you cast Heathcliff as a white character. And that's what happens here, right? All of these issues of race and outsiderness and are sort of like based on maybe class instead of all the other things that were going on at this time during the time when she wrote this book. The other thing I just want to say is, this family was homeschooled. They have 3 authors, like incredibly successful authors. What was in the water? What was he teaching them? And they even talk about how the father in the novel was sort of like mirrored after her father, who was the same. I mean, they lost their mother at such a young age, and he really raised them.
Well, so this is the ripple, because Heathcliff could also be modeled after her father, because her father was an Irishman who turned his life and became somebody who reestablished himself essentially as an Englishman. So there are people who also believe that maybe Heathcliff is Irish, and the references to his darkness is the onset of the potato famine. There's poverty. And where does he show up? But in the docks at Liverpool. So this is why I think it's fascinating. I'm not discounting anything, but there's also that theory that this is also something she knows well. So maybe it even is autobiographical, that she's writing this character who either could have been her father at one point or was a person from where her father came from.
I would have gone along with that, except for her precise use of the word dusky. She knows how to write, and she knows what words to use. So that has a different meaning from dark skin. Then you can kind of go with dark Irish and that. But she said dusky, like a gypsy. So I'm just going with her words. I'm fascinated by a lot of the critical response, cultural response. And this is from Kathleen Newman Brimong. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. She's writing in Refinery 29 about this recent iteration, the new movie. And she says, I am not encouraging whitewashing, which, let's be clear, is exactly what this adaptation and many before it have done. But aside from what implications could be drawn from a movie starring a black man opening with a lynching, I just don't think this love story is one I would want to see or engage in the discourse if it were a man of color seducing and obsessing over a white woman in this way. So her take is she's glad he's white. So I thought it was interesting.
That's interesting that she says obsessing over. They both were. I mean, these are 2 characters that were mutually, obsessed with each other, basically, right? But I think it's not. But let's also talk about. I mean, Heathcliff's one thing, and I think that's a whole issue. But the whole issue that in the book, she's like 18, 19 years old. So all of that sort of like teen angst and teen like brain not fully developed, and what happens with the relationship between Heathcliff and Catherine is different now that Margot Robbie's in her 30s. So you're not only changing the character of Heathcliff, but you're changing the whole makeup of the movie by casting an actor who is so much older than what the character in the book is.
Well,
but should we?
No, but I think this is interesting because Emerald Fennell, who
Yes.
I believe I don't know if she wrote the screenplay. We can double check that, but she certainly directed it.
Yes.
She's an Oscar-winning a screenwriter for Promising Young Woman. Has said, this is my impression
She
of
did.
this novel as a 14-year-old. This is the vision I am putting on the screen. This is why you see the Saltburn elements. She did that film as well. This is why you have a Charlie XCX soundtrack. So we're not looking for something necessarily academic in scope, but she, who our control room is
She's
confirming
clear.
she did write it.
It's her
This is her
vision.
vision.
It is exactly.
Yeah,
And
so,
that's what I was going to say. Like, what are we just supposed to go with that? I mean,
Yeah, because it's her vision.
it's her
'cause she
vision.
put it on the thing. Yeah. Yeah.
I can talk more about it next week
Well,
after I see it on Sunday.
I know what the Globe said about it.
Yeah.
Well,
1.5 stars.
So we move now to an upstairs-downstairs story with historic consequences. Above, a well-preserved 19th century home. Below, what experts now say is confirmed evidence of the Underground Railroad, a hidden passage inside Manhattan's Merchants House Museum that gave freedom seekers safe, secret passage. This is such a great story to learn about, especially as everyone has pointed out in Black History Month. That here we have this house that has been in plain sight for many, many years. It's been a museum since 1936. They always knew that this passageway was there, but they have finally put together that up in this upstairs hallway, there is a built-in dresser in the hall leading to the bedrooms. You pull out the bottom drawer of the dresser, and that leads that reveals this narrow hole that led to a ladder that led to a passage into a safe house. And now they're saying definitively, yes, this was part of the Underground Railroad.
And there's, nobody knows for sure, but they're suggesting that Joseph Brewster, who owned the house and designed it, and then also designed other houses that ended up having certain kinds of spaces like this, had ties to the abolitionist movement. So he put these secret compartments in local buildings. One of the pieces of evidence that they used to confirm it was that there are wax drippings in this passageway as you would go underneath that dresser and then down into the basement. And they say that that's used for the sort of clandestine candle lit movement of people, that they would put them in. You have to light the way it's dark and then take them down into the basement. I think it's important for people to understand that there are a lot of Underground Railroad stops around. In Massachusetts, we have over 100 safe spaces, safe sites, and stops, recognized stops by the park rangers. The latest one was in 2020 in Edgartown Harbor, which followed the path of an enslaved Native American woman named Esther. And it's fascinating to just take the Black Heritage Trail on Beacon Hill, and there's many, many stops along the Underground Railroad. For people who don't know, the leaders of that railroad, that imaginary railroad, except were being moved, were called conductors, and of course the most famous one was Harriet Tubman. So put that in the context, and to know that probably Harriet Tubman might have dropped somebody off there. We don't know.
I mean, I just think it's fascinating to be able to continue to find these spaces, right? And it just elevates that history even more, that it's in history books and you can learn about it, but the fact that this is a physical place that you can now see and it's part of a museum that you can go to, it just makes it more tangible for deniers not to be able to say it never happened. I mean, you look at things like the time of year, the time that this happened, when this house was built. Joe Brewster, they believe, was an abolitionist. Architecture, that he deliberately created this space for that. You're right, and it says, this is the first in 100 years. But as you said, Callie, there's the David Ruggles boarding house that's in New York also, that he was a Black abolitionist. AME Zion Church, a lot of the churches were these stops on the Underground Railroad. Henry Beecher had these safe spaces. So, I mean, I just think it's really interesting that we hopefully will continue to see and continue to take part in understanding that this railroad happened, that slavery happened, that there were people that were helping people get north, and there were places right here in New England, New York, Massachusetts, going all the way up to Canada that helped people escape.
And it was a death sentence for people who helped as well. We need to say how dangerous it was for the people who helped.
Well, for people looking for a visit, I mean, that's what's great about this, is normally we talk about this and then an exhibition has to be created, but no, this was already a museum, as I said, that people would flock to just to see a well-preserved sense of a 19th century home, but now they've already incorporated this history. So the Merchant's House is on 4th Street in New York, in NoHo, north of Houston.
So make it part of your trip.
Yeah, great trip for over this cold winter. Well, coming up, nothing says romance like McFish eggs. For a limited time, McDonald's offered a free Valentine's Day McNugget caviar kit. We'll talk about that and other luxury news next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
"20 years ago, the energy grid in Uruguay was dependent on imported fossil fuels. Now it runs almost entirely on green energy produced domestically. We'll speak with the energy minister who led that transition to find out how he pulled it off.
The transition is possible, but we have to change the rules of the game."
Catch that story next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And Cambridge Savings Bank, where they are committed to your financial well-being, and community is at the core of everything they do. Cambridge Savings Bank, always you. More at cambridgesavings.com, member FDIC. And Concord Park, a Volunteers of America senior community in Concord, offering wellness care and support services to help seniors age in place, including a Compass Memory Support Neighborhood. concordpark.org/care. And Boston Children's Museum, presenting Snowmazing through February Vacation Week. Activities include a sock skating rink, a Northern Lights-inspired art installation, and a winter book nook. Tickets at bostonchildrensmuseum.org.
Securely and confidentially contact GBH News by messaging us on the Signal app. Visit gbhnews.org/investigations for more information. gbhnews.org/investigations.
I'm Jared Bowen. If you're just tuning in, it's our Arts and Culture Week in Review. I'm joined by co-host Callie Crossley and Culture Show contributor Lisa Simmons. We're going over the latest headlines, which includes George Howell Coffee, where debate is brewing over a cup of one particular roast that costs $24. Is it worth it, or at that price, is it simply grounds for complaint? Here's Jenny Howell, the director of coffee sourcing and vice president of George Howell Coffee, on NBC earlier this week, discussing what makes this $24 cup of coffee so special.
The flavors coming out of this geisha variety were something most people had never experienced. Florals, bergamot, peach, honeysuckle, mango, all these notes, but also the clarity in that coffee. For coffees like this would be like drinking like a fine wine or a fine liqueur, even a very special tea or beer even. This is something you would drink on an occasion.
I think this is something that Beth Teitel, writing in the Globe, brought to all of our attention. She loves these kinds of stories. She writes them so well. I don't have a problem with this, of course, because if you look at bourbon or wine or myriad other things, you pay a lot for something that is pretty exceptional. And part of the reason this is exceptional is because it comes from these, like everything, these very special trees that produce only a very special amount.
There's only 5 trees in the whole world. They're
exactly.
golden.
But they only produce about a pound of their fruit, their seed, their coffee beans every season. So it is exclusive, and it sounded pretty. I'm not sure Beth agreed after she tasted it, but it sounded pretty from that description.
Well, Beth was struggling because she usually puts milk in her coffee. So if you're going to drink this kind of coffee, which they describe as the champagne of coffee, it has to be drunk black. And I regularly drink my coffee black, so then I would be able to enjoy all of this. So I have to, decide when I'm going to spend $24 for it. But nevertheless, that's when you really can, as Jenny Howell described, really have a sense and really get a good taste, because you can enjoy all the flavors and the layers of flavor. But I would like to say that this is part of a bigger trend, and that is the move from quiet luxury, which was a big deal for several years.
Yes.
That was, kind of muted, simple, minimalistic styles with the kind of luxurious items about your body or what you ate and how you went out. If you know, you know. Well, that's moved now. We're now into loud. We're about into loud luxury. So if I'll drink a $24 cup of coffee because I'm into the loud luxury trend. And it's very clear that you can observe it. Everybody can see it. Absolutely. And that's happening on many levels. So this is just part of that.
It is just part of that. I mean, I have to say I'm a tea drinker. So I'm waiting for the $24 cup of tea, which is water and tea bag. But no, I know it's sourced. This is sourced from Panama. It's extremely scarce. They only bought 40 pounds of it. George Howell actually pioneered this special coffee movement, so it doesn't surprise me that this is where this is happening. As you said, no milk. I feel like this is less about the caffeine and more about curiosity, right? And more about, you're right, the whole luxury, right? The whole part of like, I can spend $24 on a cup of coffee. I mean, you can probably, after you add all the things you need to add at Starbucks, you could probably come to $24 as well.
Easily.
You're right. I mean, the global average for coffee is like $4. I'm trying to think too, is this a little tone deaf in these times when, like, oh sure, like I'm going to spend $24. I think that there might be something to that. I don't know. I'm just putting that out there. I mean, the people that are going to drink this obviously are the coffee enthusiasts, tourists who are going to, this is great for George Howell. Everyone's going to be running to George Howell to try to taste this coffee. And luxury consumers who are like, yes, I'm going to drink my $24 cup of coffee.
Lisa, I don't think it's tone deaf if McDonald's is getting in on
Okay, all right. Let's talk about that.
So I will play devil's advocate here because McDonald's offered McNugget caviar kit giveaways for Valentine's Day, and they were gone in minutes.
But they're free.
Demand even crashed the site. Clearly nothing says McLove like free McFish eggs. Ugh. So they were No, I think this is, I know because I've tasted something similar. They are basically copying what is, I think now I know this term, loud luxury trend, which it was a restaurant serving at the US Open. They were serving nuggets with caviar, creme fraiche, and chives, which just sounds fantastic. And so, yeah, we're helping McDonald's now by saying their name over and over again for these caviar kits that sold out, but they knew how to peddle luxury and people snatched it up.
Yes.
So for people who are foodies, you understand that the mix is actually quite clever.
Yes.
This is a snack food upscaling, much like if you've ever been at a really, really fancy cocktail party, there's a potato chip, there's a little creme fraiche, there's a, right?
Yes. We
some
both
caviar.
went to that same cocktail party, Kelly.
And there's a little dill or chives on top of it. What's so different from chicken McNuggets with a little caviar on top? And you have at play here the very, that fried, that, not greasy, but it's that fried taste with a kind of briny taste that cuts through. It's a similar thing as when you have your chicken McNuggets with sparkling wine. Same effect.
Or French fries with sparkling wine.
That is correct.
Yeah.
It's a really good match, actually. So I think people bought it because you could only get it online.
You can.
And it was free and all of that because they were curious. But in terms of a food and wine match, it actually works.
But I guess it does, if that's where you guys want to go with this. I mean, I think it's a huge marketing thing. I think it's sort of like, it's a pure marketing. It's a fun thing. This is this new high-low trend in foods that it's being pushed by Instagrammers and experience seekers, and we're going to try this. I mean, I think it's great. I think it elevates everything. I guess you got a 1 ounce tin of the caviar, a $25 card that you can use for your chicken McNuggets. So the McNuggets were not, thank goodness, in the box. And creme fraiche and a mother.
Although they probably could have been for a few weeks.
They probably actually. And a mother of pearl caviar spoon. I think that's what everyone was doing.
Nice
yes,
touch.
Exactly. So, it's influencers, it's celebrities, it's again the same thing. It's sort of like, how can we get out in front? How can we be more engaged with our audiences? How can we get more people to be eating chicken McNuggets and with caviar? Why not? Like you said, Kelly, why not? Let's try it.
Well, let's close this out with where luxury is not working right now, because Neiman Marcus is closing its longtime flagship at Copley Place. We just learned that this week. The departure underscores a continued shakeup in luxury retail, even in Boston's Tony Back Bay. So the big
The big background to this is that the Sachs company bought Neiman Marcus. They also hold Bergdorf Goodman, and this was only in 2024. They announced recently that they were entering bankruptcy, and now coming out of this, or as part of this bankruptcy, we're learning about a bunch of store closures, including all the outlet stores for Saks Fifth Avenue. The Saks Fifth Avenue store here in Boston will remain open, but not the Neiman Marcus store, because I think luxury has just dramatically changed in this country, and maybe it's just people don't want to go to department stores. Maybe people don't want to be spending that much money or want to source their clothing. It's mostly clothing elsewhere, but it's a big change.
Well, what's interesting about it is Neiman Marcus was known for their famous luxury Christmas list,
Yes.
which had all kinds of wild things on it, including in 2025, that was just in December, the Christian Louboutin custom saddle for $47,000. I mean, it was supposed to be fantasy. Obviously, somebody could afford to buy it, but that was part of their brand. So to your point, it's interesting because there is loud luxury going on now, and people have chosen where they want to spend their money. And I guess it's not with Neiman Marcus at
well,
the
that's
moment.
the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
So luxury is moving online also. I mean, not these brick and mortar stores are having that same issue with a lot of things. Everything's going. People are buying online. They haven't given up on luxury, but they're buying luxury in other places. And I think you have a demographic that's looking at sustainable brands. I mean, they will spend a lot of money for that if they know that those are sustainable. Digital luxury experience is a whole other thing. It's more shareable with your friends. And there's a huge resale market. This is, we're also looking at a huge resale market that people are now shopping at thrift stores, or they're buying clothes online, that people are selling their own clothes online. So I think that that's an issue too. They talk about it as being one of the most dramatic retail collapses in years, because you're right, Jared. Neiman Marcus already went into bankruptcy in 2020. Saks Global bought them, and then they're just mired with debt, and they have to figure out ways to get out of it. But I still hope that we're going to see that Christmas book, because it's one of the funnest things to get, to look at Christmas and see these crazy.
Expensive to produce, though.
I know, that's true,
and
and sort of like fun to look at.
Well, this might be my favorite story of the week. A factory flub turned a Year of the Horse stuffed animal into a Lunar New Year phenomenon. With its mouth stitched upside down, the sad little guy looks like he's on the verge of tears. Now the so-called crying horse has become an unlikely hit, embraced as an emblem of how much people feel drained as they head into the new year. So this is a big thing. If you're streaming on our GBH News YouTube channel, you'll see this right now, all these little sad horses. So this is a big thing in China, where these are produced for the Lunar New Year. And this year, 2026, is the Year of the Horse. And they traced it to one factory worker who accidentally stitched an upside down, basically the frown upside down, or the smile upside down. And he got a bonus for this, actually, because these have now taken off. And they're selling something in the neighborhood of 15 to 20,000 of these little horses per week, for the reason that, not unlike here in China, the economy is suffering. People are finding it's a struggle to find upward mobility, and they think that this sad horse is a reflection of that.
And young people are saying that it's symbolic of their, there's a name for it, but I can't remember right now, their 9 to 9 p.m. culture, that this is how they have to work so hard, and that little horse, because the Lunar New Year is supposed to bring, good things. Let's have some long noodles,
strength
and long
and
life,
energy, and strength
and
energy, and
a
all
refresh.
those sorts of things. Yes.
But here's this horse, the sad little horse, to remind you, well, not so much. Though I would love to have one.
I know, it's so cute. I mean, I love this story too, because it's so it's sort of like an accident, not like the angel painting in Italy, the fresco of Meloni, but more so that I don't think that anyone had any idea how viral this would go, and really for that reason, because people are like, this is the sentiment, this is how we feel right now in the country, and now we finally have something that can help me think through that. And like they said, outside of work is the smiling horse. Work is that is the sad face horse, but I don't find him so sad, and I find him cute and sweet and sort of like wanting to hug him and wanting to
He's pretty
take care
sad.
of him. But I feel like,
Look at him, he's pretty
but he looks
sad.
so, he does look pretty
Well,
sad.
this just reminds us we were all taught that what is a smile? A frown turned
Upside down. Oh, very good, Kelly.
That's what
very
I just
good.
murdered when I was trying to say that a couple of seconds ago. I think this is going to be, by the way, your answer to the Lububu, Callie.
That's right.
Lububu is just going to go the way of the Beanie Babies, and everybody will be walking around with the frowny face horse this year. Well, now it's time for our weekend preview with a roundup of our recommendations for upcoming arts and culture happenings. Callie, what are you suggesting we take in the next week?
Well, the great independent bookstore, the Trident Bookstore, is for the second time having their Romantasy trivia game. So people may know that Romantasy is romance fused with fantasy. It's very, very popular. A lot of the top books that are bestsellers are Romantasy. The trivia game is going to include dedicated rounds on beloved classics, plus 4 miscellaneous rounds pulling from other well-known Romantasy favorites. The game they did the game last year, but never fear, they refreshed it with new questions and surprises about epic love stories, magical worlds, and love interests. And if you still don't get the Romantasy trend, check Under the Radar with Callie Crossley for our hour-long discussion with some authors that we did last year.
Lisa, I see you brought props.
I brought
for yours.
props. Hello, everybody. I brought props. Say It Loud, the AMARP 1977 to Now show is at the ICA right now. You have got to see it. It is a joyous celebration of the African American Masters Artist in Residence program that was part of Northeastern, still is part of Northeastern, that was founded by Dana Chandler. And there are 39 pieces in the exhibit. It's amazing. Countless artists, black artists, have been involved in this AMARP movement, either as residents or as exhibiting artists. And the program participants say that, the people, I was there on February 10th for the opening of it, and it was just an amazing, wonderful feeling of being able to support these artists, to be with these artists who are still living. Many of them have unfortunately passed away. Dana, who started AMARP, passed away last year in 2025, unfortunately. But it was so much love for him and the other folks. And Paul Goodnight's there, Alan Roland Crite, Calvin Burnett, Loretta Baines, all these local Boston, Lamerche Frazier, who people know probably also, Paul Goodnight, as I mentioned, Hakeem Rakib. There's all these artists that are there. It's absolutely incredible.
And just open, so people have all springtime to go see that show. And mine is a theater show. It's called The Moderate. It's on at Central Square Theater right now. This is a really intense show. I will warn you, it's very intense and some very graphic images. In fact, I saw some people walk out of the show, but I do not want that to deter you, because I think it's worth it to understand what the story is it's telling, which is the story of a man who has to moderate content for a social media company like Facebook. His job is to dismiss images, to bury images that might be tied to an advertiser, and then take down these advertisers because it's depictions of violence or child porn or sex trafficking, horrible, horrible things. So these images are created by the theatrical company, so we're not necessarily seeing real ones, but what they do in the staging, which is some of the most ingenious staging I've seen on a Boston stage, is to set up all of these screens so that we understand what Frank is looking at as he's working through these images. So we as the audience are also confronting these images, and then we understand the unraveling that he begins to have within himself and then around him. Ken Urban is the playwright. He interviewed a number of these content moderators to understand what this job is. And by the way, they are paid practically nothing for the work they have to do and what it does to them. And so that's playing at Central Square Theater through March 1st. You're warned, though. I tell you, I had to look it down at a couple points myself, because even though they were created for us, it was still hard to take, but it's a very worthy show. Well, that is all for this edition of The Culture Show. A reminder that our next Wednesday watch party is next Wednesday. That's when we'll revisit the 1996 snow-crusted crime classic Fargo. And speaking of movies, tune in Monday for Catherine Tallman, the longtime leader of the Coolidge Corner Theater, joins us to talk about the art house revival she helped ignite and her decision to step away after more than a decade in the director's chair. Plus the local cocktail bar that just received Michelin status. Thanks today to the BPL technical and logistics crew, Maddie Geyer, Bill Francis, Sandra Lopez-Burke, Juan Jose Cadena, Chris Hanks, Pat Lally, and Olivia Corcio. Also thanks to the Lennox Hotel, the Newsfeed Cafe. Thank you to everyone who came down here to be with us today. We love seeing you. I'm Jared Bowen. Turn that sad horse frown upside down. Treat yourself to coffee and caviar. Have a great Valentine's Day and an art-filled weekend.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
Where's Mary? Where is she? Where is she? She's just about to close up the library.